Today, Carolyn Barrett, also our Visit Kenner coordinator, is here to present 2 checks, one to the Kenner Food Bank and one to the Kenner Fire Department. These are the ceremonial checks. It's happened already, but this is important. This needs to be recognized. I'm not going to steal any more of her thunder. I'm going to let her come up here and say a few words. But look, on behalf of my office, me, and of course the council, we appreciate what you're doing. Thank you very much. And also, Mary Sharon, who works for the City of Kenner, is also like the right hand to the Kenner Business Association, along with the rest of your board. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Zahn. I just wanted to say we're honored to present these checks today, but we couldn't do it without the support in the business community. Our large event that helps us give these funds back is our holiday event, holiday give back event we do in December. But again, without the community involvement and the support from them, we would not be able to give these checks. We were able to do, again, a check for the food bank and for the fire department, and we appreciate everything that the fire department and the food banks does for our citizens. So thank you.
If the council could join us for a picture, we're going to have to spread out a little bit. Please keep your mask on.
The mayor did want me to share how much the checks were in case you weren't able to see them. We were able to make a donation to the food bank for $2,000, and then our donation for the fire department was $8,173, and that's to buy new equipment for their fire trucks as they're becoming more and more first responders to incidents. So, again, thank you all.
I'm going to ask the chief to step back up again and let him say a few words after I do the certificate of recognition. This is going to go to Joseph Sinceri III. I've known Joe Sinceri for a very long time. His commitment to the city of Kenner through the Kenner Fire Department has been something that has been recognized every day for the years that he was here, but it's time to recognize him because now he is leaving us, so it's time to actually recognize him with a certificate of recognition. Be it known that the city of Kenner hereby recognizes Joseph Sinceri III for his service and dedication to the citizens of the city of Kenner as a fireman with the City of Kenner Fire Department for 33 years. That is something that are milestones here in the city of Kenner that we need to recognize and we want to recognize. So, Joe, we appreciate it. The administration appreciates it. The council, it's something that's important to us. But I want the chief to come up and actually present this presentation to you. But say a few words, Chief.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. It's great when we get to see one of our brothers or sisters reach full age of retirement. As you all know, firefighting is one of the most deadly professions in the world. So when we get one of the guys that reached that full age of retirement, it's a great milestone for us. Joe's like the mayor said, has done 33 years worth of service to the citizens of the community and done a fine job at that. It's an honor to have worked with him the time that I've been there, and it's sad to see him go because he had a lot to contribute to the department as a whole. So, Joe, I want to thank you for the 33 years of service and present you with this certificate of recognition from the mayor, from the city council for your service to the citizens of Kennesaw.
Thank you. Sure. Thank you. First and foremost, I have to thank my wife and my family for the sacrifices that they had to go through. A firefighter's career is, there's a lot of interruptions in holidays, birthdays, anniversaries, and all those things. And especially in the early years, there's a lot of those I miss. And so I want to thank my wife, Donna, just for supporting me in this career, and couldn't have done it without her. And my brothers and sisters that I worked with, it's just, you know, it's a fraternity that it's hard to explain. We could be arguing about who cleans the toilet 1 minute, and next minute we're on a hose line together inside of a house. So it's just an unbelievable fraternity that I belong to. My family moved out to Kenner in 1963. I've been out here since then, and I played ball at the Kenner Recreation Department, and went to Bonneville High School, and never thought that I would, work for city government in any way. It wasn't what I wanted to do, but it wound up, that's just the way it turned out. And as soon as I got on, I fell in love with the profession. It's been a blessing to have a vocation to serve the community and the public and my fellow citizens. So I want to thank y'all, thank the city, mostly thank the citizens of Kenner.
Council, we're going to do a picture again. That's it, Chairman.
morning, I'd like to call the meeting of January 21st, 2022 to order. Council members, are there any special intentions?
Councilman.
Mayor Zahn?
I'd like to keep Cheryl Pitfield, Chad Pitfield's mother, in our prayers. She is in the hospital still. I believe it's close to a month now, at least 3 weeks to a month, and she's having some challenges. So I'd like to definitely keep her in our thoughts and prayers.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councilman Wilmot?
Thank you, Mr. President. If you will, keep my father in your prayers. He's had a long-term stay in the hospital, and he continues to struggle. So I ask that you keep him in your prayers. Thank you.
Councilman Carroll.
Councilman Carroll?
Thank you, Mr. President. I also would like to ask everyone for their prayers for Miss D. Used to be the maintenance lady at Buddy Lawson Playground for over 20 or 30 years within the Recreation Department, has gone on to glory, and I ask for your prayers for her and her family. Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes, sir. Mayor Zahn?
I do want to add one more. Jeff and Heather Lachlan. Jeff is one of our Kenner policemen with the Kenner Police Department for quite a long time. They have suffered a loss in their family with Heather's father.
Thank you. And sometimes at Mass, they'll say for any special intentions. So I guess if anybody's holding anything in their heart that they don't want to publicly discuss, let's keep any of those thoughts in our prayer today. We have the pastor from the Vineyard, John Caballo, who will lead us in the prayer. Everyone, please stand.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we welcome your presence here. I ask that your Spirit would rest on each one of us gathered here this morning. Bring peace to our hearts and to our minds. Today we thank you. We thank you for life. We thank you for family. We thank you for friendship. We thank you for the ability to be involved in useful work and for the honor of doing that work in your name. And we thank you for loving us, that no matter where life finds us this morning, you love each one of us unconditionally. Today we pray for each city official, and in particular for the assembled council. We ask that you would graciously grant them wisdom to govern amid any conflicting interests and issues present here today. Grant them the sense of welfare and true needs of the people of Kenner, both those gathered here this morning and those that cannot be present. Grant them the confidence in what is good and just and right. Grant them the ability to work together in harmony even when there is honest disagreement. For you've told us what is good and what you require of us, to love mercy, to act justly, and to walk humbly with you, our God. I pray for the agenda set before us today, and we ask that your will would be done here on earth as it is in heaven. And finally, continually draw each one of us closer to you, teaching us to be more and more like your Son, Jesus Christ, living in creative goodness for the sake of others through the power of your Holy Spirit. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Councilman Brannigan, would you lead us in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I need Ada, please.
Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir. In accordance with Council Resolution Number B14550, please be advised that all cellular telephones and other devices of this nature must be deactivated or silenced throughout the council meeting. Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum this morning.
Thank you.
We have correspondence, reports from the mayor, CAO, or department heads.
Mayor Zahn?
Some quick things that I want to recognize, and I have Doug Dote and Deborah Foshee with two short reports. But recognition to the Kenner Fire Department, again, The chief had given me this yesterday. Fire department members who recently received their associate's degree in fire protection service programs from different colleges. Firefighter Nick Adams, Captain Jamie DiMaggio, Captain Lawrence DiMaggio, Firefighter Kevin Dunn Jr., Training Officer Jason Dyer, and Captain Michael Mastretti. I just think it's right, and so did the chief, to recognize these individuals, because these are guys that work for us that are taking that extra step and going a little bit further. I do appreciate the chief's leadership on this in seeing this through, but also appreciate these guys that went, like I said, a step further in bettering themselves and also helping our constituents. Some good news on tax numbers. Citywide sales tax revenues for January were up 44%. That is about 1.2 million compared to the same time this month last year. For the current fiscal year, we are up right at 29%. That is about 5.6% compared to this time last year. So with all the things that are, that we're going through, COVID and IDA rebuilding, we are still moving ahead. And I would add to that, with Mary Sharon Holland's help with organizing the ribbon cuttings, we cut the 150th ribbon this past Tuesday. Those aren't including the businesses that don't require or ask for a ribbon cutting. We don't force it on anybody. We see if they want to do it. So that's the 150th out of numerous occupational licenses and numerous businesses that continue to open in spite of the recent challenges that this city, like everybody else, has had. With that said, I'm going to turn it over to Doug Dote with a COVID and also a weather update, because we are experiencing some weather that's a little bit challenging, and also a COVID update from the governor from yesterday. Doug?
Thank you, Mayor. Members of council, concerning the cold weather, we're monitoring updates from the National Weather Service on the current cold weather conditions. At this time, we do not anticipate any major local roadway or utility impacts from the weekend's weather. We can expect some steady rain and cold temperatures to continue throughout the day today, and some areas within the region could see freezing conditions for several hours. Kenner may see some or experience near to slightly below freezing temperatures for a period of time early Saturday. With limited rainfall today and no rainfall forecast for Saturday, major impacts to local roadways are not anticipated in the Kenner or Jefferson Parish area at this time. We have updated our first responders and KPD and KFD as to the conditions they can expect over the next few days. Our field services, public works, general services, and wastewater crews have made some preliminary preparations for the cold weather. They will continue to monitor roadway conditions and check generators and other equipment over the next few days. But we are in communications with Energy should there be any unexpected utility impacts. We are monitoring the DOTD for road conditions and travel advisories, and we will maintain contact with parish and state agencies should they have any unanticipated events that require additional resources. A winter advisory remains in effect for much of southeast Louisiana today, and I understand a freeze warning is in effect tonight for portions of the area, and then a freeze advisory is in effect for Sunday as well. But this does not the coldest weather does not currently include the city of Kenner or areas on the South Shore. If you're traveling outside the metro area, particularly to the north and west of Kenner, you may want to consult the DOTD's 511 organization webpage for information on highway conditions and road closures. As to COVID-19, Omicron remains the dominant variant throughout the state, about 98% according to the Louisiana Department of Health. 98% of the cases are Omicron related. All indications are that we're approaching the peak of the current surge, and we are likely to see some decreases over the next few weeks, although the disease is still very widespread throughout the communities throughout the state. Governor Edwards held a news conference on Thursday concerning statewide COVID conditions and response, and he reiterated the impacts to the healthcare system, particularly the hospitals. The Louisiana Department of Health reports that there have been 47,342 reinfections cases since the pandemic began in early 2020, and this week there were 1,875 new reinfections statewide as late as Thursday. So that's a daily rate. In Jefferson Parish, there is a 30.6 weekly positivity rate as of the 12th of this month, down from 35% the week before. There were 494 new cases reported in Jefferson Parish yesterday, which is a 7-day average of about 808 new cases. And the death rate in Jefferson Parish is about 1.5 deaths every 7 days. Within Kenner's municipal government, we've seen a number of departments affected by COVID, but all of our departments have been able to address their temporary staffing shortages with alternate scheduling and minimal disruption of administrative services. There has been no impact to critical services. The governor reissued his proclamation concerning statewide public health emergency provisions and mitigation measures on Wednesday, and these provisions now extend through February 16th. The White House has announced a means by which each U.S. resident can obtain 4 cost-free test kits by mail. A website has been established by the U.S. Postal Service. It's covidtest.gov, and delivery is expected to take about up to 14 days. Also, since December 15th, private insurers are required to reimburse customers for the purchase of over-the-counter test kits. However, there's still some difficulty in locating tests in pharmacies and online. My office will continue to monitor these events and will report back to you as we have throughout the pandemic on a weekly basis, and also provide these briefs. If there's any questions, I'll be glad to address them.
Thank you, Mr. Dote. Mayor?
Ms. Foshee on a building report. Sorry about that.
Oh, it's all good.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a follow-up from last council meeting, we have a request. We're operating under a general assumption and understanding that the council would like for us to proceed with a rebuilding, repair, reconstruction at 1801 for the City Hall permanently. We are acting under that based on conversations we've had with you individually and based on your reaction to the report provided by Mr. Calderero. But I would really appreciate, you could help us out if you would do a resolution of some sort showing the council's request that we do that, because ultimately that is your determination where we're going to go, not ours. So we're operating as if that is your desire, but I don't want to get caught in the swishes if it turns out that's not what the plan is there. So that's just a little follow-up. Okay, I'm going to start trying to give just a timeline update, because now we're starting to have a little more information both from the insurance company, from FEMA, and then from contractors generally on how the process is going to go. So we received an update yesterday from the public adjuster that we expect Sedgwick, which is the carrier, to have a commitment within 30 days of how much they owe us on 25 of our buildings. FEMA will not take action to commit any funds until we provide them with that report. FEMA will, after they receive that report, do an in-person inspection on our more hard-hit buildings, buildings A, B, C, Pontchartrain Center, AP Clay. I think there's one other on that list. They will, however, before that 30-day period, and this is, I think, from Wednesday's conversation with them, they will do a virtual inspection. The virtual inspection involves a representative from FEMA, our representatives, and basically, I think, an iPad or something. If, as a result of the virtual inspection, we agree with their conclusions, then they will not do a physical inspection. That will just be what we all agree to. If we do not agree to it, then they will go forward with the actual in-person inspection. So we believe within the 30 to 60-day timeline that we're now waiting on for insurance and FEMA to come see us. During the interim of that, we will be trying to do the virtual inspection, at least on the hardest hit buildings. We currently have RFQs out for 3 of the That's okay. 3 of the 428 programs we talked about previously. The 428, as you may recall, is the program by which we can show FEMA what the costs are to return it exactly the way it was. then provide the cost to make it better. And FEMA, if we agree that we're not going to keep coming back and asking for more and more and more funds, they will pay us for the one-time development, but we have to go back to them with, architectural renderings, cost takeoffs, and that sort of thing. So we have RFQs out for 3 potential 428s. One is City Hall, and that would be combining all of the 1801 campus facilities, plus a couple of the off-campus facilities, like the fire headquarters, which is damaged beyond the limits of our insurance. So a combination, creating a real city center, city hall with the ability to provide all services from that one location. That's the first 428. The second 428 is for the wastewater system. If you have not been on a tour of the wastewater system, I certainly encourage you to do it. It's very fascinating, but it's also scattered because things got built over different periods of time. During the storm, we had guys sleeping in like moving container kind of buildings because we do not have the right structure out there. So they can build it back the way it is, or we can do a better job out there. So the 428 for that is also out. The third 428 RFQ that is out is for the recreation. And that is, again, looking at the ones that we own, look at the ones that we don't own, look at what we're using them for, and perhaps make a proposal for repairing some in a combined fashion. And again, all of this then has to come back to the council. This is not something simply because we're requesting this information. This is information to give to the council so the council can take action. So in terms of our best case scenario, the insurance commitment comes mid-February, FEMA assessment mid-March, public hearings on the 428 May and June, council action and making a selection saying yes, go forward with the 428 or don't, repair or don't would be in August. Then we'd have to advertise for the actual construction, right? Because right now what we have is the design phase. Advertisement would be in September of 2022, award selection October 2022, council action to give award the contract and a notice to proceed in December, council action December 2022, notice to proceed January 2023, and then based upon the estimates both from the contractor and from the private adjuster, it's 18 months to 3 years from notice to proceed for the construction to be complete. So if everything goes perfectly, we don't have any hitches in terms of what we're projecting here, whether you repair what you have or you rebuild something different, between July 2024 and January 2026, we'll be moving into the repaired or reconstructed facilities at 1801. This timeline will continue to update as we get new information as something changes. The only other one we want to talk about is the Pontchartrain Center. Pontchartrain Center is now in rough ready shape. Some of you went out there with us and saw it when it was completely full of scaffolding, which was a very impressive sight. The scaffolding is now down. It is not finished. It's sort of raw sheetrock, but it's going to be sufficient for us to be able to house the Mardi Gras balls. So none of the balls are going to be canceled. None of the balls are going to be required to move anyplace else. Once the balls are complete, then Southern Cat, which has been doing the remediation and some of the repair for us, will be coming back, and they'll be finishing the interior repairs on the ceiling, which they will do with man lifts, so they don't have to put all of that scaffolding back up. So that is, again, that's also something in process because we expect that to be in March or April after the Mardi Gras has passed. So the next step really, since clearly we're talking about July 2024 is our best case scenario, we have to find an interim place to be between now and 2024. This is our emergency place. We did this because we had no other options. Now we're looking to you guys to tell us what you need to be able to make a decision on where to go. We're happy to provide you any information. We're happy to provide you, like the status. I know there was some suggestion about gyms, obviously to take over 72,000 square feet of office. We end up taking all the gyms, so probably don't want to take all the gyms out of commerce. But I would just like to hear, and you guys don't have to vote, but just people, whoever's interested in this, please send me an email or call me and say, I'd like this information so I can make that decision. So until the council makes a decision to where to be on the long-term interim, we are using the short-term interim. We're here, but we will go wherever you tell us to go. And that is it. We are very close to the negotiation of the final cost on the Macy's because we just got the appraisals coming in on Monday. So we'll be back to the council on that as well. Does anyone have any questions for me?
Councilman Carroll.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Ms. Fauché. I guess I'd like to go back to your first statement about the perceived perception from the council to move forward, which it may be, I just want to say that I haven't had any conversation with the council president as it relates to specific, my opinions
sir.
about that. I'm sure generally spoken to someone about that, but not specifically. No, also, I would like to receive the reports of the building, the shape they're in now before that would help me make my decision going forward. I'd like to get that. And I would also like, once I get that, have an opportunity to share with my constituents, my opinion, what I feel the state it is right now. And I would also like to do it after FEMA does their visit to give their information before we make any type of formal submittal
Okay.
to the administration.
So I understand what you're saying. Let me break that down into a couple concepts. One is whether we're going to repair what we have or we're going to replace it. But before that is where are we going to go? Because if we are neither going to repair or replace 1801, we don't need to look at it. So what I need from you guys is just a direction. Do you want us to tell FEMA we're looking at going back there? Because if we're not going back there, FEMA's not going to come look. We've been telling FEMA, we're trying to get back to 1801, so we need you to please come look at this because we need to use these buildings. But if the decision may be we're not going to go back to 1801, we don't need to do that. So some of that one decision is the one that you guys have to make before we can tell FEMA what we need them to do. Then, when you get to the issue of do you want to just repair what's there or do you want to replace it, that's where the FEMA report will come in, okay? Because FEMA already has our reports. FEMA's going to come look, and FEMA's going to say, yes, this is damaged beyond the repair cost, or no, we think you can fix this. That's when FEMA says, okay. So I'm happy, I will give you anything that you want, Councilman, but I don't believe that information is necessary for this body to tell me, do we want to tell FEMA we want to go to 1801 or not? So I will give you all of that.
Yeah. One, I think for me personally, I'm only speaking for myself. For me, I think it is important to get that documentation on the buildings, specifically now for the properties that house City Hall. That is what I want initially to look at.
All right.
And the other stuff I can get later, but since this is obviously kind of a priority
Yes,
over
sir.
some other stuff,
Right.
I would want to get that first. Also, I would want to hear what FEMA has to say when they come in.
FEMA won't say anything until we tell them where we're going. If we
So-
say we're not going back to 1801, FEMA doesn't care.
So how do we know without additional information to make that decision?
You're
Or
not
ma-
make, I'm so sorry, I apologize for cutting you off. I need conceptually, if you had the choice today, would you want to go back to 1801 or would you want us to be looking for another place? That's a philosophical choice, not a cost choice. FEMA wants to know what's y'all's plan, because based upon whatever your plan is, that's how they're going to decide to pay us. If we say we absolutely have no intention of ever going back to 1801, but we'd still like 30 million, they're going to say no.
Okay, so yes, I could definitely say today that my opinion would be to go back to
Got it.
1801.
And then I give you everything else so you can decide the next step.
Okay.
All right,
Then
so-
I guess now we're good.
Yeah, I think
understand
we're good.
exactly what
We're
you're saying.
always
Yeah.
good. We're
Yeah,
always
okay.
good.
All right then. Yes, so that's that, to get that information, but yes, if I had to say today,
Okay.
I would definitely say that would be my opinion to go back to 1801.
And
So-
it would be, so again, I'm operating like that, but if that is not the case, we really need your guidance.
Yeah,
A resolution saying we want you to explore that, then we give that to FEMA, we say this is what we're doing, and we move in that direction. I haven't heard anyone propose anything else, so it's not like I think it's A or B. I think that's what you want, but you guys have to make that decision, not us.
yeah, so understanding what you just initially said and now, and I'm sure you've spoken to either each person individually or as a group to get that, and I see why you feel that way, because that's exactly my position, and talking to a few people, that's theirs as well.
I
So
take
just-
that away from the public meeting where Mr. Caldera made the presentation on that recommendation.
and
So I
that's-
have not had individual meetings or asked that.
That's, sometimes that's all you need.
Yes,
You
thank you.
don't need more. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Councilman Segura?
Thank you, Council President. And just following up on Councilman Carroll's discussion and your request, yes, I will put on record, I want to go back to 1801. As the councilman for that district and longtime resident of Kenner going there, I'll start the resolution if necessary to put up for next meeting to concur and let everyone else decide from here where they want to go. But we'll start that process, because I do believe that is where we should go back, just for the significance of our city as it's been growing up, and that's where people generally are accustomed to saying that's where we should be. So
Thank you, sir.
we have the area. Thank you.
Took the words out of my mouth. That's a good suggestion.
and say them again. Probably you can say them better.
No, I'll say them in Spanish. Councilman Wilmot?
Thank you, Mr. President. 1801 is the preferred address. Of course, I've always felt that way. 1801 needs to be the place. It's been the hub for Kenner government for decades, and I think it needs to be maintained. In addition to that, I think that right now, of course, we're at the Macy's building having our council meetings, and we do have, and I'd like to know some more information on that. Is there any progress as far as rent is concerned and reimbursements and so forth? That is an ongoing issue in my mind, and I'd like to have that addressed. But in addition to that, I think we need to go back to a government-owned facility where rent is not going to be an issue, and I think we need to do that as soon as possible. Although this is a nice facility, it's set up well, and a wonderful job has been done here. We needed the space and so forth. I understand all that. But still, rent is an issue, and I think as long as that's outstanding, we don't need to be paying rent. Simply put, we have a lot of government buildings we need to move and as swiftly as possible and get back into one of our own buildings that we call home. So if you will address that, I'd appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Where would you like us to go?
No, well, we have different gyms, we have different places that we can even utilize as soon as possible. That would be wonderful. We have different buildings we could go to, and I understand there's arguments for or against each one of them. But my point is that we need to utilize that as soon as possible, whether it's a gym, whether it's the Kenner Pavilion, any place that's owned by the government, our government, that we can go to. I think that's so important, so we can cut off any cost that we may be expending being here.
Okay. So just to answer your question in terms of where we are, we do have the council who's negotiating the contract.
Right.
And forgive me if I'm repeating some things from last time. So FEMA is reimbursing 100% of any rent we pay for the first 45 days, and then 90% thereafter. I think it's up to 18 months? Okay. The proposal by the owners, which we think is high, but let's assume that's the worst-case scenario, the proposal is $60,000 a month. So if we pay 10% and FEMA pays 90%, that's $6,000 a month. Now, in addition to that, we have air conditioning and all that sort of thing that we're going to have wherever we go. But if, in terms of the mystery, in terms of how much it's going to cost us to be here right now, the worst-case scenario is $6,000 a month for 18 months. But as you can tell, by this timeline, we need to be somewhere for more than 18 months. We need to be somewhere for, we need to plan for January of 2026. So it's more of a long-term interim than a short-term interim. But I will be happy. What other information do you need in terms of to make a determination where else you want to go?
We do need to, and I understand that we do have an immediate need, and then we have an interim need. And that's what I'm referring to is that interim need.
Right.
From here, we need to go someplace else because it's going to take, if I'm not mistaken, 2 to 3 years before we can actually do some groundbreaking at 1801 Williams. Is that correct?
It looks to me like we would be, groundbreaking would be January of 2023, but we're going to need to be there while there's the construction, which goes through again, I'm giving you guys the shortest and the longest. Longest is January 2026. I don't think we should cut ourselves short. So again, my question to you, so that we can give you adequate information, are you talking about looking at gyms? Are you talking, what are you asking us to do?
Of course, we would like to be the most logistical place that we can have for what we need for Kenner government. And that needs to be, the process needs to be put in, of course, by you as well as us. And I would like to know.
It's not us.
I would.
You wanna
Right,
know that?
here's my only concern, and look, I'm all about not paying rent, right? Here's my only concern. We don't own all of our gyms. That's something with the
That's
school
correct.
board. And then, as I'm trying to build, and we are rebuilding recreation, as y'all have heard in town hall meetings or just presentations from Mr. Charles Elan, now I'm taking a gym away from the kids. So I would caution the council on gyms, because if the constituents, like myself, like you all, we want to rebuild recreation. We are doing that. I can't rebuild recreation if the council ties my hands and takes a gym away. The only gym right now, I believe, that's functional is Wood Lake and, I'll wait for them to tell me, but I believe it's Wood Lake. Other gyms is, right. So it's 3 gyms that are usable at this point, but that I'll be taking that away. And we're not just talking about, I mean, I respect this, but when the council speaks, they're talking about, or you're talking about council meetings. Walk around this building and see what else I have to put in places. So now I'm tying up more gyms, and now I'm all over the place. Well, we would work with that, but I caution the council to take recreation away from our kids.
And I agree, we got to be very careful and selective, and that's why I think it takes a lot of input from administration as well as council. And we also have the Pontchartrain Center.
Which is being repaired.
It's being repaired, that's correct. But there is a room over there, I understand, we've already had meetings in there. The acoustics, I don't think is that good, but at
you're
the
talking
same
about,
time.
right. With all due respect, Councilman, you're speaking on council thoughts. I have departments. Where do I put the departments? So as we're moving council meetings someplace else, if that's the will of the council, so be it. If we can find a place, I'm still paying rent here, though. The constituents of Kenner are still paying rent. So you're solving a council issue, but you're not solving my issue.
And that's information we need to make that decision, is what you're
Right.
indicating
Well, I think we've
now.
shared that with y'all, though.
Right.
I think we've done a pretty good job sharing information with this council and the public on how many issues this administration, this city hall government has. So, look, like I said, we'll go where the council tells us to go, but when you tell us to go someplace, that's where the council meeting is going to stay. We're not going to have a situation where I'm pulling people off of the streets when I'm already challenged with COVID and also the rebuilding of Ida, and I have to set up a council meeting, break down a council meeting, set up a council meeting, break down it. I'm not doing that.
And that's what's important to us to hear, is what you're saying
I've said it
right now.
before.
No, I know you have, but we're revisiting it.
Right. Oh,
Because
no,
the
that's
issue's
good.
coming up right now. So if you're going to remain here, if the administration's going to remain here with various departments and so forth, and that's not going to change, then that's information, again, we need to know.
Right.
So we can decide
But-
where the council goes.
And I appreciate that, and that's why we keep bringing it up to you all. I think I've heard almost the majority of the councils today say, maybe not the whole majority, but I'm sure the rest are going to say 1801 is where we want to go back to. That gives us some direction. We appreciate that we need to start looking at that and start doing that. In that interim period, though,
Right.
we still need to run government. You all still need to have your council meetings.
Right.
2 places in the city of Kenner can house city government. One just got reopened, thank God, before Christmas, Burlington and Macy's building. We hired a local real estate agent to come in and tell us where we could go. We're here.
No, thank you.
You know-
I needed, yeah,
No,
I think the
look,
public
and-
needed to hear
and-
that
and-
again.
And I appreciate your comments, but I
Thank
do
you.
have to come back and say, we have been preaching the same song for a few council meetings and town hall meetings and publicly. But this is good dialogue, we appreciate it, but we can't just look at it as a council meeting. We got to look at it as, the city of Kenner government, and that's our challenge, taking something away from people or going to a place that can house us.
And that's why this is
Oh, absolutely.
the puzzle. We got to figure out all the pieces
I
and parts.
totally agree, but I think
Yeah.
we got one piece of the puzzle today that it sounds like everybody's going to speak on 1801, so that gives us some direction to start that ball rolling and start looking at that and start bringing some things back to this body to say, okay, as we're rebuilding over there or going through the process to get ready to rebuild, I think we're here for a little bit.
Thank you, Mayor, for that
No,
understanding.
no problem. I appreciate it, Councilman.
May I?
Yes, sorry, I
and-
butt in.
I'm sorry. And so, Councilman Wilmot, I think what I'm trying to find out is what you want to know. What information do you need so that you can make your decision? Just to give you the A, B, and C, we lost 58,000 square feet of City Hall administrative space. When you add the gym that we lost over here in Macy's, it's a total of 72. Not Macy's, the mall. So 72 is a number we've been looking for because we've been trying to put all of that destroyed space back together. An example of sizes of gyms, I mean, obviously there's no gym that's big enough, but if you took, Buddy Lawson is 6,400, Butch Dewey is 13,800, Bertolino is 13,000 and Wentwood is 12,000. So if you combined all three of those, all four of those, you still wouldn't have enough space. So we got to figure out, and I understand the importance when there's expense, but if that's what they want to hear, we will give that to them. But I understand that the priority for appearances is clearly the council, right? Because that's where the people come to talk. But we have a lot of business going on here that's not related to the council meeting. So I want to make sure I provide you and the departments provide you with whatever information you need so that you can make the decision about where we need to go. Until we're stuck here right now, but we don't have to stay here forever. This was the emergency spot, but now we have long-term temporary, and we will give you whatever information it is you need to be able to make that decision. That's what I'm asking for. What information would you like from us?
And you just, the mayor just did fill in a big piece of the puzzle, and that was a concern, is where is the rest of Kenner government have their desire to be or need to be?
Correct.
And couple that with the council, we have to do, we got to put all that together.
Right.
It's like a puzzle, so we need to.
And add to the expense, first of all, I want to see how y'all going to decide what gym we go to, because somebody's got to give up one. The second thing is, if that choice was made, I'd have to get y'all to the expense, and I'll get Adam working on that with IT, the build-out of a gym, the temporary build-out of a gym. We know what we went through here. And also the IT, fiber optics, everything that has to be done to run city government. I'm not saying this is the only place that works, but this is the only place that works right now, I think, at a lesser expense. But we'll get those numbers together for you too. But then I still caution you, who's going to give up that gym? Or who's going to give up those gyms? And I'm not saying you asking that. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
but
I'm not necessarily
No, I
bringing
know.
up
But
the gym.
I'm
Yeah.
trying to avoid that confusion on this council, because some districts are giving up gyms if you all would choose to do that. Look, I'm not a proponent of that, but I also want to get that expense for you too.
And I just wanted to understand our options. That's the.
I'm not saying that's what you want to do. I'm not going to leave here and say Tom Wilmot
Thank
wants to take away gyms from the kids. I'm just saying that I want to get that price if we find let's say 6 months from now, 8 months from now, the Pontchartrain Center is totally rehabbed. As you all move a council meeting possibly there, let me find out how much it's going to cost to move city government there. Expense levels need to be given to you all.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay?
Thank you.
I'm not leaving here doing anything that's contrary to what you're asking. I'm going to leave here to get you some prices.
And I do like the Pontchartrain Center concept, but we may not need it if we're going to be here too. So
Right.
all those
And-
things need to be.
And remember, as we
determined.
take Pontchartrain Center, a city building, no rent, we rebuild it as City Hall, right? I'm just speaking possibly. We're also taking the Pontchartrain Center out of Commerce. I'm working with Atlantis, I'm working with Treasure Chest, and I'm not saying you're saying to do this, Atlantis and Treasure Chest to rebuild that area. I do feel like in the near future, particularly by 2023, the end of 2023, when Treasure Chest comes on land, the Pontchartrain Center is going to be a lot busier. So as we start to move city governments there, as we're waiting 3, 4, 5 years down the road for a city hall to be built, the Pontchartrain Center now is out of tourism.
Okay. Well,
It's things that we all have to think about that we
Exactly.
probably need to have more discussions on and get some prices for.
Okay. And this helps. I appreciate
Absolutely.
the
Look,
dialogue.
I'm not offended by it. I'm trying to just, be a little more vocal with it, because I think that's what the people of Kenner need to understand. And also this body needs to understand that this is not the best thing, but this is the best thing that works.
And I'm sorry, I keep coming up with more information. So last time we told you we would check into the trailers, because when we were looking at trailers before we got here, it was $2 million down and $200,000 a month, and that was rental. So we've looked at the Kenner Trailer Park, right? How many trailers do we need to create City Hall? We cannot put a gymnastics program in a trailer. So we're looking at the $58,000 of pure administrative space, and that would cost $7 million to acquire enough trailers to do that. In talking to Ms. Herring, we have to look at what FEMA will reimburse, because what FEMA looks at is the reasonable cost and the comparisons. When FEMA sees it's $6,000 a month to stay here or $7 million to go to trailers, they're not going to pay for the trailer. So there's that level of, if we can rehab gyms so that what we're doing is rehabbing them in connection with the repair from hurricane damage, we've got FEMA coverage, but if we say we're going to pay, $3 million to redo all the gyms so we can operate 58,000 square feet or 72,000 square feet, but it's more than this, they won't reimburse it. So that's kind of that's where I want really to know is what you want to know. And I think this is a good start, but anybody who has any questions or anybody else you want us to talk to or anything else you want us to look at, we're very, very willing to do that.
And just one closing comment from me. Non-departments in this building right now. So that's non-departments that I have to work someplace else, run all the fiber, run everything that needs to be run for the departments to function for our constituents. And I do check with the departments, particularly code, at least once or twice a week. We haven't had pushback on getting in, getting out here, the way it's run here, so.
I appreciate all these comments because it's
Well, it helps.
we need to know, yeah, it helps. We need
Absolutely.
to know this and the public, so
But I'm with you.
thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilmember McKinney?
Thank you, Council President. I just had a couple of questions, and I am in favor of rebuilding at the current site, so just to clarify that. But what is, and this is just a question, you may not know the answer to this. I know you said there are 9 departments currently here, but what is the current footprint, the current square footage of the office space in the Macy's building? So you don't have to answer this now, I just would like, I don't think we're using 58,000 square feet right now. Are we?
We have more than half of the first floor, and each floor is over 100. So we probably have 50, but we don't have 72 yet. We're also expanding in that direction for the
Okay.
for the gymnastics program.
Okay, so I would like the number on
Absolutely.
that, and then also what 9 departments are in here as well, just that information. Later on in the meeting, I'm just going to mention it here, that my intention was to create a council committee to discuss the future of City Hall, and so we can do something similar to what we did with the boat ordinance and collect our, have a more focused, as opposed to do it in the council
Excellent.
meeting. We can have that, because I think that this is an opportunity for the city, so we want to make sure we're putting a lot of energy and a lot of focus on this, and I think that's really the most appropriate, kind of way to go, so we have a lot of time and effort into that, because this is something that's going to impact the city for a whole nother 2-3 generations,
Right.
so.
And we can't really do this every 2 weeks for 20 minutes. We really need more
Right.
time than that.
Yeah, and I think that's the venue that we should be doing that in, and that way we can request that information. And I was going to do a motion to create that committee with Councilman Brennan, so do that later in the meeting, but yeah.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Brannigan?
Yeah, the rent for this building, what did you say the rent was?
So again, we're still negotiating, right? But the request from the current landowner is that we pay $60,000 a month, which pans out to $720,000 a year.
Right.
Which divided by the 300 and whatever thousand square feet total breaks down to a number. Where we are is we're saying this whole space isn't usable. Right now, we're trying to get the escalators fixed. We're trying to get the elevators fixed. We couldn't go onto the second floor and use it if we wanted to right now. So the total price they're asking us is $60,000 a month for the whole building, and Mr. Sherman's negotiating.
Okay.
For the first 45 days, if that's again, under the reasonableness test, then FEMA pays 100%. After that, FEMA pays 90. So if 60 is the final number, which I believe it will not be, Councilman Brannigan, I think that's high. But if 60 were the number, then we'd be paying $6,000 a month.
Okay, so how much have we been reimbursed by FEMA today? Any reimbursements from FEMA as of today?
10 million? No, not FEMA.
Yeah.
We have not received any funds from FEMA.
Okay, so the 100% and a 90-10 split, basically, I think that's irrelevant right now.
Well-
Once FEMA comes in and pays us, then that's going to take care of 45 days. And when it goes to 90-10, how long is that for?
Up to 18 months.
Yeah, 18 months.
So including 45 days, it would be up to 18 months. So basically, we would be here for a year and a half at $6,000 a month. is what you're saying, because of if the 60,000 came back as the number.
And if you decided to stay here, I think I'm getting indication from some council members they don't want to stay here. So you're talking
Okay.
about if the council decides where we go. The council doesn't just decide where the council goes for council meetings. The council decides where the whole city goes. If the council decides we're not staying here, we go elsewhere. If the council decided to stay here for 18 months, then yes, based upon where we are right now, it's $6,000 a month.
Okay, so in the Pontchartrain Center, on the west side of the building, they have the meeting rooms and they had where we had council meetings, okay?
Yes, sir.
I don't think that we can take the Pontchartrain Center out of circulation and lose the revenue for that building to put City Hall in if the numbers don't work. And so I guess my question is, you're saying that we're using 50,000 square feet currently in this building. You said it's 100,000 square feet on the first floor, and we're using half of it.
Yeah, and again, that's all approximate. I told
Okay,
Councilman
yeah,
McKinney
yeah.
I would get her the actual number
Okay,
afterwards.
so on the west side of the Pontchartrain Center, where we have had council meetings in those rooms, and above that, do you have any idea how much square feet those locations are? And can our departments go into those second floor offices and use that? So that, the city would be on the west side of the building, and then the halls are still open for whatever they need to bring in.
Happy to look into that and be able to get back to you before the next meeting or at the next meeting.
I mean,
Just to compare that square
yeah, I mean,
footage to
the
what we need.
the deal that's going to make the decision is the calculator, and basically, it depends on how much revenue would be lost if we took the west side of the
Right.
building where those offices and that hall is versus being here. And then we have the expense of going over there and having to do everything
Right.
over again, wiring everything and getting everything up and running. So I think, look, and I want to go back to 1801, and the reason that I would like to be back at 1801 is because there's a 14-foot elevation change between the river and the lake, and 1801's a hell of a lot higher than 3500 block of Kenner, which is West Esplanade. So from a flooding standpoint in the future, hopefully we never have to deal with it, I think that would be a better location. When we look at, we need to look at how much money we're getting to be able to rebuild the buildings or tear them down and build a state-of-the-art complex. So, that's another decision that has to be made by the money that comes back from insurance. And you said that if you go to FEMA and you tell them, here's our plan, and they would reimburse us some of it, we need to know what that total is.
Correct.
So that we're not behind
Correct.
on the dollars.
Correct. Just if I could, because as we're asking questions, people are texting the information. So the downstairs, the combined space downstairs, on that whole western side, is 14,681 square feet. Not sure about upstairs. It may be, those rooms may be more shallow, not 100%.
So we got about 25,000 square feet
Maybe,
there.
and we'd have to look at that, because one of those has sort of a permanent installation of Messina's. But I will definitely get those actual numbers for you, Councilman, and we'll be able to talk about that next time. If I get it before then, I will submit it, and if
Okay.
Councilwoman McKinney's committee begins to meet, we will also get it to them.
Okay.
Is that all, Councilman?
Yes, sir. Thank you,
Councilman
Council
Hayes?
President.
Do you have any comments?
I think we've talked about quite a few variables here. I think we all want to get back to 1801. It's the most efficient thing that we can possibly do. And let's just see where all the numbers play out and all the responses that we get. Again, I think we're all looking for the same thing and just waiting for a lot of answers.
Thank you. Councilman Wilmot?
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to ask Ms. Foshee, if you will, I'd like those numbers too that Councilman Brannigan was referring to regarding the Pontchartrain Center with the west side of the building and so forth.
I
So,
will send it to everyone.
perfect, thank you.
The only other, the dates you were reading off at the beginning, I was trying to write those down, but I can only write so quickly. So would you?
Would you like an email
When you
for
send that
everyone?
information, all of
Yes.
us, would you add those dates, those
Yes, sir.
approximates? So we have that as well, please.
Yes, sir.
Councilman Carroll?
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. President, and I just like to surmise some of my thoughts based on everybody's comments about here, about the recreation, about this, about that, I made a couple of notes. First is, for the record clear, I have been adamantly against about being, I've never wanted to move here. I always felt we should not have been here. I've always felt we should have made some type of attempt to use some of the city. That was just my opinion, still is my opinion, that we should have done that. So I am one of those council persons that's my opinion, as was stated. I also think, based on what Councilman Wilmot has said about us moving, about this, about the administration, where do we want to go, I think it is the responsibility, like it is for everything else, from executive summary, for the administration to give us a couple of choices. You have the documentation on the status of the buildings, all the buildings. Give us something to work with so we can make a choice. We can revise, we can agree, we can play down or whatever, but we need something to help us decide how are we going to move forward from either getting out of this building. And I look at it in two phases. This is a council meeting for the people. We got to have that. And we're looking at everything else for the workers that are supporting the people. So the council meeting, I look at that, dealing with that, and at the same time keeping the balls in the air for where we're going to go with everybody else. Also, you know, I am a proponent of recreation. I would never want to shut down the gyms to put buildings there so the kids wouldn't be able to have access. But we haven't had recreation in the gyms over a year. So we haven't been having that now over a year. I would never want to do it to push it to another year or two. So that, you know, we just need to get a plan to pick something that we can use without taking away all of recreation, obviously. Also, even during the pandemic, you know, immediately, I mean, in the heat of the pandemic, we had to do some stuff because this is the way of the world via Zoom. So we don't have to have, we can have sort of a hybrid if we had to for all of some of these departments to have some Zoom, some here, some somewhere. So it doesn't have to be everybody. And I think when we speak of the total footage of City Hall, all of that space wasn't occupied. That is why we're going to be better when we build back, because we'll be able to bring more in for it. So when we say those numbers, do we need all of that space? Probably not. We can make it fit with some type of a hybrid to be able to do that. And thirdly, as far as the situation with the fire marshal, what is the latest report from the fire marshal for this building? Where are we? What have we completed everything totally? And what is it that we haven't done that we have to do if we're going to be here another day as well? So I think we need to get something from the administration, just a basic thing, get something from the administration so we can make a decision on how we're going to fit all of this to accommodate the people of the city of Kenner about, one, getting out of here and bringing in all the services that we have to give the people. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman. Ms. Foshee, if I just may, let's wrap this up if we can. As far as the fire marshal, and not to discount what you're saying, Chief, you please feel free to weigh in on this. I'm assuming if this was the ultimate decision where we're going to stay temporarily until we go back or where we end up going, as we expand space in here, we will be doing what we need to do to be up to code and what would be required and such.
That's correct.
I'm going to have to respectfully disagree with you, Council. I agree with that, but I want to know today what is the status of the building as it relates to the safety of us and the people that work in here every day. And what is it if we have to do something to correct that, and how long will it be?
It's not a problem. I was already,
Okay, I apologize.
if the councilman wants that, look, I don't think you object to it. The chief is here, but we still are working with the architect also, but the chief can weigh in on that.
Right. Well, currently, the fire marshal is fine with where we are as far as safety of everyone involved here, is, you know, with the capacity, this point of assembly within the building itself. The fire marshal is good with that. He's waiting on reports from the architect as to the design of the building and what we need to do from that aspect. So we hadn't gotten any final information on that, and once the architect submits that to the state fire marshal, he'll get back with the mayor and CAO on what they feel needs to be done, if anything needs to be changed at that point.
Well, as far as the recommendation from the fire department, I would like to get a copy, all of us, to get a copy to see what were their recommendations, to see what they were, and the status of the building right now, as far as what type of safety concerns we're having right now here.
We met, we met with them in person. And
Okay.
they said, we need to work with your architect, and you're fine now while we're working with your architect. If we did not get back to them at some point, then they might come back. But right now, they're fine where we are, what we're doing, as long as we're moving forward and trying to address any issues. There is nothing written at this point, to my knowledge, other than get the architect to get with us to identify it. I think what we're looking at in some locations is cubicles, and in other, and I think these two walls, maybe the gathering walls may need to be sheetrock, something. But anyway, we are working with them, and we will address those issues, and we will bring that back to you.
Okay,
But right now, if the fire marshal wanted us out of here, they'd kick us out.
yes, they would. Again, I would like to get a copy of the report from the fire marshal,
Okay, that's the state fire marshal.
state fire marshal, the people who recommend, who oversee all facilities in the state of Louisiana, which would include this building.
That's
And
correct.
the recommendations that they want for us to do, and tells us the status right now. That's what I would like, and I'm sure my colleagues would like that as well.
Okay.
Right. Well, like I said, once the architect, currently, we're good where we are. As far as the state fire marshal is concerned, we have the green tag on the sprinkler system, like I said earlier, months ago, and the alarm system is yellow tagged, only because of the construction that's going in here is not green tag, and it is monitored. You know, so the state fire marshal is good with that. The issue with the design and the layout of it is where the architect needed to submit something to the state fire marshal, which is where we currently are within the city administration doing that. So they are considered the owners, if you will, of the occupancy. So all the communication from their architect to the state fire marshal goes between them, and we would get notified. The Kenner Fire Department would get notified from the state fire marshal of the status of that.
Once the fire marshal's complete,
Once it's
which they're not complete
right.
at this point because they're still working with the architect.
Right. Once they send, for every business that they give us the green tag, it's okay to open this business, they send an email to us saying this business is okay to open, and then we get the occupancy inspections and those sorts of things that we are capable of doing.
I got you, Chief. I understand. Again, I would like to get a copy of the report, the final report, or reports from the Louisiana Fire Marshal on this building as we are here presently.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
But you realize that's not me.
No, I
It's the
realize
state
that.
fire.
No, I want their report
Right.
on this building.
Okay.
That's, and give enough for all of the council as well. So, do you, any particular length of time to be able to get that report?
Well, that's based on what the state fire marshal process is with the architect.
No, what they've submitted already, because I'm sure they've done at least initial report.
Right.
That's the one.
We've had to walk through with them, and all our basic communication with them was emails and stuff that's saying, okay, this is good, we're good with this, where we are right now, until they get the design and the reports from the city's architect.
I could wait for that, but I would like all of the documentation between the city of Kenner and the fire marshal as it relates to this building.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Mayor Zahn? That's it? Thank you. Council Clerk?
Under resolutions, motions, and other items from the floor, Mr. Chairman, I received a request to amend the agenda to add item 16I, which is an ordinance creating a procedure for the handling of additional time during declared emergencies by the mayor. I have a motion by Councilmember Wilmot, seconded by Councilmember Brennan. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to voice objection to adding this item to the agenda? Please come forward.
State your name and record, name and address for the record, please.
Madam Clerk and Mr. President, Richard Brown, Sessions Lane, Kenner. I'm not sure if I object, but could the council clerk tell us a little more about what this is and why it is being added to the agenda rather than on the agenda to start with?
Actually, Mr. Chairman, could we actually defer to Councilmember Wilmot?
Certainly.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Yes, Mr. Brown, this is an item that we're putting on, or I'm actually putting on from the floor, considering the recent news stories regarding additional pay, storm-related events, and this actually creates some oversight by the Kenner Council in those events. It actually allows for a 5-day period of time only by the administration to give additional pay, and anything beyond that would have to be approved by the Kenner Council.
It's an ordinance up for first reading then, correct?
Yes, sir, it is.
Yes, I have no objection.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Anyone else? Madam Clerk? Oh, pardon me, Councilman Wilmot.
Thank you. We're still under emergency orders or emergency declaration. This legislation needs to be heard right away as soon as possible to ensure council oversight, as I just said, during declared emergencies for pay purposes. This is, in my opinion, we need this in place and we need it now. We did have some news stories recently, including last night, that indicated that pay was made to various employees of the city of Kenner, and it was very, very alarming, the amount of pay that they were receiving in addition to their salaries. So this helps to address it, and that's what it does. These are taxpayer dollars we're talking about. They're being spent, and we need to, the council needs to have its authority over this or some input into this to make sure it's regulated properly. And that's what the legislation does. In addition to that, there's also a article in here where it indicates that pay will not be for more than 24 hours a day. It was calculated that some employees, or at least one, got paid for apparently it's 27 hours in one day. So this addresses that as well. So there's things that need to be in place. This attempts to do so, and that's what it does. And I ask for my colleagues' support. We need a 7-0 in order to bring it from the floor. And I strongly suggest that this is very important. We need to address it, and it needs to be addressed right away. And we need to have some type of oversight here. So that's what it does, and I ask for your support.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Carroll?
Thank you, Mr. President, and I'd like to thank Councilman Wilmot for bringing this proposal up for the legislation because it is needed. It is needed from the participation from the administration, from the council, for the public confidence, because we all saw the news last night, and I think Councilman Wilmot's words were kind. I think we all saw it. It was atrocious what we saw on television, and we have to address this immediately. And any other comments that I have, I will wait until the time is right to address it once we put this in place. But the participation from the administration, from the council, is important that we get this right. We have dropped the ball on this, and we cannot sustain anything like this to happen again, not only for the taxpayers' dollars, but the perception for the city of Kenner to the state of Louisiana. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman Carroll. Any other comments? Councilman Brannigan?
Yeah, I would like to thank Councilman Wilmot for putting this up. And the thing that I saw alarming from the news article last night was that this is from 2002, the current plan, and they said in there that pay in 2006 from Katrina was not reimbursable by FEMA. And I think that we need to address that, make sure that, you know, this stuff is straightened out so that we don't have that issue pop up again.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Segura.
Thank you, Council President. Yeah, I understand the consent of Councilman Wilmot. Listening or watching that story last night is certainly alarming, and it does call into attention the need to look at it. But what is also also alarming is that he rushed to put this together, as he told me, overnight. And as I'm looking through it, there's numerous errors in the wording, the accusations and allegations in here that I don't know that this is what we need to rushly move into. I understand our city attorney was not even consulted on the preparation. So anytime a ordinance comes up for our council to vote on, it sure seems fair that the city attorney should have some oversight or something to look into it to be clear what it involves and what's going to happen. And I see this all happening more often now with legislation that's not going through city attorneys' vetting. But that's okay. But in this case, I see way too many errors. I pointed out an error, and then mysteriously a new sheet shows up correcting that error. So that's only one error. There's many others. So as much as I don't have a problem supporting the inquiring and writing legislation to address, it needs to be done properly and not in this rushed haste event. So if Councilman Wilmot would agree to, I'll be happy to work with him to prepare something that's more legal, as I would think about it in terms of our city attorney having some input, wording put in here that's not so, I mean, it's not right for an ordinance that we're going to vote on to have language that's in here. I understand that the intent of it, and I agree we need to do research to find out what happened. Just because a news story says something happened, I want to know for sure if it did or didn't happen, and I want to get information from my finance director, my personnel director, payroll director, to know if things were done improperly as alleged in legislation before I'm voting on it. So we have a dilemma. We need a 7-0 vote to put this on the agenda for first reading. And I don't agree that this should be the language on first reading because it's got too many errors. But if I don't vote for it, then I'm going to be criticized for not being in favor of its intent. And that's not the case here. I am in favor of the intent, just not in this word fashion. So I'm very much willing to, like I said, work with Councilman Wilmot as I've done with Councilman Brennan on some other legislation that we'll see later to put something together that is something that the council can stand by and know that we have the proper legal language in there to do this and bring it back up at the next meeting. Remember, these from the floor, and I see Mr. Brown saying he was okay, but he's usually the one that doesn't like us bringing things up from the floor without some pre-knowledge of it being on our agenda, obviously, because this is what happened. Things sometimes are rushed, and this is a rushed document. If it's very urgent and extenuating circumstances, which I have supported bringing from the floor in the past, I don't have a problem, but that document still needs to be in a correct format. And what we've done in the past when I supported it appeared they were. So this one I do have a problem with. So that's the perplex that I have on whether to agree to bring it up now, but with not in this format to vote on, because this is not right. So thank you.
Mr. Chairman, the mayor has his hand up to speak. I didn't.
Unless you want to respond first, that's fine.
I'd like to respond right away, yeah, because what Councilman Segura is suggesting is not right. First off.
You didn't make a change just now?
First, yeah, I absolutely did.
Okay, well, then that was right.
The change was, it was a printer error. It wasn't the legislation itself. It left off, in the print process, it left off. It printed out as a standard page and not a legal page, so it cut off the bottom of the document. So it's been reprinted and redistributed, and he has it, and there's no errors in this at this point that I'm aware of. This is a solid document. What it does basically is, in the body of it, the actual ordinance that will be voted on later, not now, later, because this still has chances to go through the process and be amended. This is important. It needs to be done now. This is very important. As you saw, there's been 2 or 3 news stories on this already. This needs to be addressed now, not later, not to wait, now. Now, all it does is it takes the policy from 2002, reincorporates that into an ordinance, then it adds on to it two additional sections. It just simply clarifies and makes right what's wrong with the policy. I'm going to read them. Section 2, any additional wages paid to directors or other employees is set forth in Section 1, which is the actual policy of the 2002 that was referred to in a news article, shall be for the limited duration of 5 days, not months, 5 days, unless an additional duration is granted for that specific declared emergency event by the Kenner City Council. So it gives us oversight. That needs to happen. So that's Section 2. Section 3, in no event shall a director or other employee be paid as set forth in Section 1. Again, Section 1 is the current policy of 2002 for more than 24 hours in a day. For example, when regular time and additional time are added together, the sum thereof shall not exceed 24 hours in a day. There was a news story in the past that said somebody got paid, I think it was 27 hours in a 24-hour period. How can that be? That needs to be corrected, and that's what this does. So this is simply straightforward corrections of something that needs to be addressed, and it needs to be addressed now, not later, now. So that's why I bring it up from the floor. It's very important. And Councilman Segura, if you feel like you can't vote for it because there's something wrong in the print, I don't know what it is. It was drafted as a result of the story aired last night, and I moved out on it immediately, and I think it's very important that we do something about it now. Thank you.
Mayor?
So, as the council has sat here just a few minutes ago, and we've had discussion, good open discussion with the council on you all wanting information from us on the buildings and where we're going, and we have no problem. I just wish that was reciprocal, because what's not reciprocal here is I just checked with the city attorney, I just checked with the outside city attorney, CEO, CFO, and one of my DCOs, compliance officer, I'm sorry, to say, do you have a copy of it? Because I stepped back, and I'm like, what's going on? I didn't have a copy. I thought maybe they did. So we don't get the same in return. That's fine if that's what this body or some of this body chooses to do. But by you reading it, thank you, because I didn't know what was in it. It is possible to do the things that were done. I have only a few of y'all have reached out to say what's going on. But all of you all reached out in the days after Ida. And if we want to talk about a certain individual that I feel is a political hit piece that's been poorly researched by certain media outlets, it's now influencing some members of the council to take this to a council meeting, and it looks like politically hit us because we don't have a copy of it. You've had since December 23rd or December 22nd to write that legislation, because this is only the second article by a news outlet. So I don't know what happened last night. I saw both of them. But I don't know what happened last night since the 22nd or 23rd of December that motivated you to do it. But not once has my phone rang from the author of this legislation to ask me a question. And you know, Tom, I do reach out to you as the council chairman, which you were, numerous times, to talk about things that were going on that need to be corrected. So I'm a little annoyed, besides concerned, that some council members would be alerted to this. You know what we went through in the days after Ida. Everyone was reaching out to everyone on this administration, and we were reaching out to you all, but particularly the one that's in question here. We would love to educate you. Look, it looks like we're going to have time, because I don't think you're getting 7 votes to put this on the floor for today. So I would now, with everything I've said, I'd still like to extend the olive branch and talk to you about this one-on-one or with this administration or the real city attorney. So if that's what you want to do, I'm extending that publicly. It's a yes or no answer.
May I respond?
Certainly.
Thank you, Mayor. And yeah, I'm always interested in learning and from everybody's perspective of how things are played out and what's going on behind the scenes. But I can say this, it's very disturbing when somebody gets paid over $80,000. I don't care. They're salary employees. They get paid more than $80,000 or $90,000 in a given period of time, in a short period of time after a storm. I don't care if it's a storm. They're getting paid. They're getting paid a salary, and I can't see giving any type of pay to that extent to any employee. That's just, to me, it's horrendous, and it's wrong. And we can't give away the farm on these
So
types of things. And I think it's very disturbing.
That's fine, but let's have discussions on it, because if employees shouldn't be paid for services and for their job, then we probably have a bigger discussion we need to have.
Well, this corrects what I think needs to be corrected.
But
It
let us-
allows for
but
5
it
days,
doesn't-
and then
it
the
doesn't-
council can come in
right.
with oversight.
It
That's
do-
where it
it
corrects it.
doesn't-
And I think it needs to happen.
But we need
Regardless.
to educate you on the policy. We would love to educate you on the policy. That's all I'm asking for.
The 2002 policy, the one that says when the city is closed,
It
you're
is,
not going to you stop any of this overtime pay or additional pay?
it doesn't, that's what we need to educate you on. We need to educate all of you all, if you want to. We can do it 3 at a time. We would love to. We just haven't received that phone call from the majority of the council. So we would love to educate you on the policy.
I'll be glad to meet with you, Mayor.
If you listen to the report, except from the law professor, it is implied. It's implied. They don't say we did. It's implied. It's suggested. There's a difference. And you as an attorney I as a decorator picked that up. You as an attorney, I'm sure, picked that up. Implied in saying that we did are two different things.
Well, I'd still like to see if this council would approve this legislation to put it on from the floor. I think it's important that we do so, and it needs to happen. The story indicated something very serious, and I think we need to address it as a council members, and if we don't, shame on us.
Councilman Hayes?
I have just a simple question. Councilman Brannigan related from the TV last night that FEMA did have a problem with what we did in the past. Ms. Fauché, is that the case?
Yes, sir. In 2007, the prior administration at that time did not follow its own policy and submitted both the straight time and the, what do you call it, hazard pay. So FEMA doesn't pay your regular pay. The Kenner taxpayers are already paying us our 7 hours. What FEMA does is pay anything that you get pursuant to your own policy above that. There's a very simple reason for that. National Institute of Management Services, which is the FEMA training academy that provides certification, puts all of us through that. The reason they put all of that through that is so that we, instead of contractors, can perform those services. If we do not allow our employees to perform those services, then contractors perform those services. Contractors love to perform those services, but they'll get, instead of $86,000, they'll get $500. So I think what we're talking about here is paying people to work, for which FEMA has previously reimbursed us. 2007, they did not reimburse us because it was submitted improperly. They submitted both the straight time, which is never reimbursed, and the surplus. So that is correct. In 2007, it was submitted incorrectly. We have submitted ours correctly. We continue to submit ours correctly. We have FEMA, GOSEP, Deloitte, all embedded with us, and we don't make a single move without talking to these people. In every prior incident under this administration, we have submitted this policy, we have been reimbursed. We have no reason to believe we will not be. I'm alarmed that a hit piece like last night, which had false information and false conclusions, would be acted on. I know, Councilman Wilmot, that you would not act if you knew the information. So I would encourage you, please, to let us have that opportunity to speak.
Councilman Carroll?
Thank you, Mr. President, and I'd like to thank, because my prior statement was, this is something that the administration, that the council should weigh in on to make sure we get it right. Councilman Segura is correct. We should all together have an input on this, along with the city attorney, to make sure we get it right. But Councilman Wilmot is correct. There is nothing wrong with putting this on now, because this isn't the law that we're not even going to vote on this tonight. So that gives us time to massage it and put it in a way that it is correct. And because I never spoke to him about this, just like the mayor never spoke to him about it, I didn't know about it because the piece came last night, and obviously it was enough to prompt him to want to do it like that. So I'm not sure if he spoke to anyone else, but it was enough that I believe to put it up today with the understanding that we will revisit this and put it in a format that is for the citizens of Kenner. And at the end of the day, to vote to put it on, I, like Mr. Brown, agree sometimes we should, by all means possible, put stuff up in a reasonable time, not from the floor. But there are some things, and I have said in the past, that require immediate response. And I think this is, the taxpayers' dollars, is immediate response. Whatever the legality is or whatever attorneys may or may not say is one thing, but the only thing worse than paying the outrageous amount of money to one individual is to try to say that you don't look at this and see that there's a problem with that. If you can't see that, that is a bigger concern that I have with anyone in this room. Because every taxpayer that I've talked to had a concern with it. So if your concern is not to fix this and just to talk about other stuff, then I guess we just disagree on that. But we have to move forward today with the process, not tomorrow, today. Now, if you don't want to support that with the understanding that we will massage this into something good, that's your responsibility too. But I'm just saying it will not hurt to put this up today, and as we work on it, put it in place as it is something that we can agree upon, at least the majority of can agree upon in a timely manner. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So I will be supporting it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman Carroll. Councilwoman McKinney?
Thank you, Council President. I'm just wanted to make a quick comment that I think it's important for us to discuss this. I think it's something that was discussed and has been discussed in the past. So putting this ordinance on is going to create a mechanism in which we can move forward to discuss it. I think should be a public discussion, not an in-private discussion, because I think right now the public knows about it and has concerns about it. And anything that anything that is said to rationalize it or make it clear why the policy is justified or anything like that should be out in the open. So I think that putting this up on the agenda so we can discuss it in future meetings in more detail is something that's a good move.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilman Brannigan?
Yes, I think that this legislation should be put on today, and it's for first reading. I mean, we have 2 weeks to get with the administration, get with the council, and get anything that's worked out that Councilman Segura sees as a problem, and we can always come back with an amendment. If it's not worked out in the 2 weeks, then it could always be deferred for another 2 weeks. But I think that this can be resolved within the next 2 weeks, and we're putting it on for first reading. We're not voting to implement the legislation today. It's a common sense approach.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Segura?
Thank you, Council President, and I agree, like I said earlier, with the intent fully. I think this is an issue that is alarming and needs to be aired out. And as I've said before, I am not against the intent. I just don't like this document because it has errors that I see. Now, yes, I'm not an attorney. Mr. Wilmot is an attorney. If he thinks this is good, that's great for him. City Attorney, have you seen this document yet?
No, I've not seen it, no.
Thank you. So now I have an opinion from my city attorney who has not seen it to know if any words in here are a problem for the city to have to defend or be perhaps litigated somewhere in the future, and then the words are what here. All I'm saying is, this is not the document to get us to where we are presumably all looking to get to. And I'll pick up on a comment that Councilwoman McKinney made previously. There should be a committee appointed by the whole, by the council president, and let the committee of a whole sit down and bring the administration in, bring the CFO, maybe even FEMA, and let them present us the facts and what was done. Did we follow the proper rules in filing the payroll that was put in? Based on that, then we can write legislation to correct the problem. We don't have that in front of us. We just have a reactionary piece of words on a paper from a story that we don't even know if it's truthful. We're hearing it's not. I'm hearing, obviously, from the administration. CFO, you said you followed the proper procedures in filing the payroll?
Yes, sir. So just like all of you, when I saw the article hit the news last night, I was alarmed. I said, I know this isn't happening. Let me go back. I just checked everything, made sure we are following the law, and we are. We're following our procedure. Everything in place has been followed. We have been reimbursed by FEMA under this exact same policy previously since I got here 5 years ago. There are no issues with the policy. Like Deborah said earlier, we meet with Deloitte daily. We work with the state. We work with FEMA. We don't just make decisions. We do what's best for the city to make sure that funding will come back to the city. There are no issues with the policy. I get emotional because it's insulting to say an allegation that something wrong is happening, that something negligent is happening. It's completely insulting.
Thank you for that. And sorry for the position you're in, because if you know you're doing your job correctly, to be accused on a news story that perhaps you're not is alarming. But that's the point. Let us get to the facts. Let us have a gathering of information as like I said, a committee of the whole to sit here in a public meeting with the public, the administration, and everybody, and let's vet out each of these whereases and find out what is truthful and what is not. Because it says here, whereas it appears that the administrative policy may not have been properly followed by the administration. CFO, is that contrary to what you just said? You didn't appear to, I got the point. So I can go right down the line, each of these whereases, to get to the sections that say what we'll do. Not opposed to that, but let's get the proper facts and find out what is the proper way of doing it. If we need to change a policy and say, you know what, and just picking up on what Ms. Foshee said, and I am familiar from my time with mayor and other, with the police department, that says we do need things after a hurricane that if we don't have the personnel to do, we contract out. And no question, that contractor is going to draw a lot of funds from us. Some of it will be paid by FEMA, but we'll eventually pay some of it ourselves also. The FEMA training program, NIMS, is designed to train government employees to do some of these tasks to save the overall taxpayer, federal, state, local, money by not having to go out and contract things that need to be done. If you have an in-house employee who is trained by them to oversee projects and oversee work, it is much less expensive. But you're right, we may have a shock that that employee makes more money at that point in time. And if that's something we want to address, then that's what a good policy change should be, not this reactionary throw words on a piece of paper in the midnight hour. So I cannot support putting this on for first reading without better worded document to know where to go forth. The amendment process, I know how that works. 4 people come up and say, here's what I'm doing. I never have an input. Maybe that's good or bad. I'm asking the council president to form a committee of the whole and let us research this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman.
Nobody else, I'd like to close.
Mr. Mayor, do you have any additional comments?
I'll just say this. The comment was made by somebody, I can't remember exactly who, but it was made today that this is alarming. The alarming part that I see is that some are alarmed to pay our workers for work that is done. That's what's alarming to me as a CEO of this city. If a worker, director, a DCEO, a CAO, a CFO does work, I'm picking up that it's alarming that they're compensated for work. There was many times that members of this council were late at night with the salary that's in question of this individual, asking for numerous things. Look yourself in the mirror and think about that when this comes up on a regular agenda. You know what I'm talking about. So we're going to have a discussion in the future, and I hope we have discussions before that council meeting 2 weeks from now, because I will be prepared with a list of things that were done and that we continue to do to put services back on the street for the citizens of the city of Kenner. That's exactly what we did. This should not be a political attack against this individual or this administration or each other of you all sitting up there. But that's the alarming part. The alarming part is workers should not be compensated in the city of Kenner that work for me and that assist each and every one of you. That's alarming.
Everybody's finished, I'd like to close.
I have one thing.
Councilman Carroll.
One more thing, I guess. Thank you, Mr. President. And we can go back and forth on wordsmithing this and that, or accusations, or accusing, or whatever. The bottom line is, and I like to just ask the finance director, is it true that an individual was paid $86,000 in that time frame? Just that.
I'd have to check the actual records. I don't know.
Could you check it
but-
now then?
Yeah, okay.
Because if it's something was put on the television that looked like city documents that they highlighted, then there is a problem.
Yeah, and when I say misinformation, I'm not saying what he was paid is misinformation.
Okay,
Obviously,
that's-
they received it from me.
I'm just
But there was a
asking.
lot of other misinformation that they used to
I-
piece together a story.
I
That's
res-
what I'm saying.
I respect that. I'm just asking, was that piece of the information correct?
Councilman Wilmot, to close?
Well, she hadn't answered me yet.
Oh, okay.
Yes, it's an accurate number.
Thank you, and that's what I want. And so for me, that is enough to start the conversation to correct this. That's all I'm saying. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Councilman Wilmot?
Thank you, Mr. President. And Ms. Herring? Ms. Herring? Again, could you repeat that, the Councilman Carroll, what he just said? That was the 86,000, was that accurate?
That was an accurate number, yes. And if
Okay.
you are interested, I can calculate what the cost of a contractor would have been for that same period, just to give y'all an idea of if you are going to put this in motion, what the additional cost it would be for the city.
That'd be fine. I just wanted to know, though, a salaried employee got paid an additional $86,000 in that calendar year.
For performing additional duties for Hurricane Ida, yes.
Okay. Well, in closing, I guess it's my time to close.
Well, if I can comment before he does.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Council President. And again, I don't disagree. The number has been validated by our CFO. It's correct. And Mr. Councilman Wilmot is astonished that an employee got that much money. But let's find out what he did to earn that money, and was that justified? Because if it was justified, where is the problem? Just because somebody made money for work that they do. A lot of people are paid after hurricanes for work they do that is astonishing. It's just because the nature of the beast says, oh, we're coming in, we're going to do something that you can't do on your own, so we're going to charge you an astonishing amount of money to do that. And I've been through that, you know, in my career with numerous hurricanes. Katrina was the first major one that I was involved in another capacity, and now as a counsel for Ida, I'm seeing it again. So I don't have that great sort of concern on that number, but I would have a concern on was he earned justifiably, but we don't know that yet. And that's what I'm asking that we move forward with, and let's just get the real facts, then we make a decision. Again, I want to know, my legal advisor is telling me it's a good document. She can't tell me that. She's never seen this. My CFO I'm embarrassed that she had to almost break down because she felt alarmed to be criticized for things that she did that are alleged in here that she did not do properly. The dollar, that's correct. Thank you, Councilman Carroll, for pulling that out. There was never a question on that dollar, but let's question, was it justified? So if Council Wilmot wants to think that a salaried employee shouldn't make that, let's find out if they should or shouldn't make that for that work. The city pays them for one work, and then they're being paid for a whole different set of work during an emergency. That's what we need to find out. Thank you.
Councilman Wilmot.
Thank you, Council President. Yeah, when it comes to this type of thing, it don't look good, plain and simple. It does not look good. A salaried employee getting paid an additional $86,000, and other employees. I know that this was a storm-related event, and this is the pay that was underneath that, but it needs to come before the council. That's what this legislation does. It says, okay, let the mayor or the administration, they can agree to go ahead and pay an extra 5 days after a storm. That's fine. But after that, you need to come to the council for additional oversight. That's what's important. This is checks and balances here. We are the legislative branch. This is pay, taxpayer dollars we're talking about. We should have oversight of that. And that's what this legislation does. It gives the council oversight, the proper oversight. That's what we need. To spend $86,000 on one employee and several thousands of dollars on other additional employees. I don't know what the total is, but I'd like to know that, Ms. Herring, too. What total are we talking about for all these employees that was paid out for Ida? And I get it. We were under an emergency order. We're still under an emergency order. And I think it's so very important that we have employees step up. No question about it. But when we're talking about pay like this, we need to be beyond reproach. We need that there's not news stories out there about the city of Kenner over issues like this. And how to do it? This legislation corrects it. This is what we're doing. We need to have something in place where the city of Kenner, the administration can go ahead and pay out 5 days, 5 full days. That's fine. But no more. It's got to come before the body who actually oversees the budget, and that's the council. And that's the main thing we need to drive home here, and we should do it now. We don't need to wait. We're still under emergency order. The administration can still pay additional pay to employees at this point in time. According to their rules, apparently was paid through almost Christmas for at least one employee. So if that's the case, it can continue to happen today. I don't like that. I really don't. I think we need to do something now. It's imperative we do something now. This legislation was written up fairly fast. I think it's solid. It's good stuff. And all it does is take the current policy They are saying they're relying on the 2002 policy. It regurgitates that, then it puts a couple of parameters on it, giving the council oversight. That's all it does. There's nothing to think about with this. You don't have to be an attorney to understand that. You can look at it and read it, and it's that easy. So I think that this has to be passed, and it needs to be put on the agenda for next meeting, so we can vote on it then. We got 2 full weeks to review it before then. And it is a rush. Yes, it is. This city is getting a black eye on this, and I can't stand for it. My job is to do what I'm doing, and I expect every member of this council to vote for this. And if you don't, shame on you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir. Council members, please vote. Councilman Carroll.
Yay.
Councilman Segura.
Nay.
Councilman Hayes.
Yes.
Councilman Brannigan.
Yes.
Councilman Brennan.
Yes.
Councilman McKinney.
Yes.
Councilman Wilmot.
Yay.
Motion fails 6-1. Mr. Chairman, I've received a request to change the order of business to take item 18A at the beginning of the meeting. I have a motion by Councilmember Brennan, seconded by Councilmember McKinney, to change the order of business to take item 18A. Council members, please vote. Councilman Segura.
Yay.
Councilman Hayes.
Yes.
Councilman Brannigan.
Yes.
Councilman Brennan.
Yes.
Councilman McKinney.
Yay.
Councilman Wilmot.
Yay.
Councilman Carroll.
Yay.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 18A. At the request of the legal department, an executive session regarding the settlement demand for Tracy Fernandez versus the City of Kenner et al., case number 806-546, 24th JDC Division F, and the City of Kenner et al. Are the defendants in that action. I have a motion by Councilmember Brennan, seconded by Councilmember McKinney, to adjourn into executive session. Council members, please vote. Councilman Hayes?
Yes.
Councilman Brannigan?
Yes.
Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Councilman McKinney?
Yay.
Councilman Wilmot?
Yay.
Councilman Carroll?
Yay.
Councilman Segura?
Yay.
We are now in executive session. Motion by Councilmember Brennan, seconded by Councilmember McKinney, to reconvene from executive session. Council members, please vote on reconvening. Councilman Brannigan?
Yes.
Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Councilman McKinney?
Yay.
Councilman Wilmot?
Yay.
Councilman Carroll?
Yay.
Councilman Segura?
Yay.
Councilman Hayes?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. I have a motion by Councilmember Brennan, seconded by Councilmember Hayes, to authorize settlement in the amount of $20,000 for attorney fees to be paid by the City of Kenner for the finalization of the settlement terms and full and final settlement of all claims in the Tracy Fernandez versus the City of Kenner et al. Case number 806-546, pending the 24th Judicial District, and further authorizing the mayor of the City of Kenner to execute any necessary documents.
Yes, ma'am. It was $20,000 paid by Kenner, subject to finalization of.
Okay, let me correct this, please. I'm going to read it one more time. Motion to authorize settlement in the amount of $20,000 for attorney fees to be paid by the City of Kenner, subject to finalization of settlement terms and full and final settlement of all claims in the Tracy Fernandez versus the City of Kenner et al., case number 806-546, pending in the 24th Judicial District Court, and further authorizing the mayor of the City of Kenner to execute any necessary documents. That's a motion by Councilmember Brennan, seconded by Councilmember Hayes. Any discussion? Council members, please vote on the motion as the clerk has read into the record. Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Councilman McKinney?
Yay.
Councilman Wilmot?
Yay.
Councilman Carroll?
Yay.
Councilman Segur?
Yay.
Councilman Hayes?
Yes.
Councilman Brannigan?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Mr. Chairman, I've also received a request to change the order of business to take item 18B at the beginning of the meeting. I have a motion by Councilmember Brennan, seconded by Councilmember McKinney, to change the order of business to take item 18B. Council members, please vote. Councilman McKinney?
Yay.
Councilman Wilmot?
Yay.
Councilman Carroll?
Yay.
Councilman Segur?
Yay.
Councilman Hayes?
Yes.
Councilman Brannigan?
Yes.
Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 18B. At the request of the Legal Department, an executive session regarding case status and potential resolution, the Gray Media Group Incorporated doing business as Fox WVUE versus E.B. Zahn in his official capacity as mayor and custodian of records for the city of Kenner, 24th JDC. I have a motion by Councilmember Brennan, seconded by Councilmember McKinney, to adjourn into executive session. Council members, please vote. Councilman Wilmot?
Yay.
Councilman Carroll?
Yay.
Councilman Segur?
Yay.
Councilman Hayes?
Yes.
Councilman Brannigan?
Yes.
Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Councilman McKinney?
Yay.
Motion passes 7-0. We are now in executive session.
Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I have a motion by Councilmember Brennan, seconded by Councilmember Kenny, to reconvene from executive session. Council members, please vote. Councilman Carroll?
Yay.
Segur?
Yay.
Hayes? To reconvene?
Yes.
Councilman Brannigan?
Yes.
Brennan?
Yes.
McKinney?
Yay.
Wilmot?
Yay.
Motion passes 7-0 to reconvene. I have a motion by Councilmember Hayes, seconded by Councilmember Segur, for a motion to authorize settlement in the amount up to $6,451 for attorney fees and costs in full and final settlement of all claims in the Gray Media Group Incorporated doing business as Fox WVUE versus E. Ben Zahn, 24th JDC, and further authorizing the mayor of the city of Kenner to execute any necessary documents. That motion was motion by Councilmember Hayes, seconded by Segur. Council members, is there any discussion? Seeing none, council members, please vote. Segur?
Yay.
Hayes?
Yes.
Brannigan?
Yes.
Brennan?
Yes.
McKinney?
Yay.
Wilmot?
Yay.
Carroll?
Yay.
Motion passes 7-0. Under the consent agenda, we have item 1, approval of minutes, the regular council meeting of January 6th, 2022. Item 2 is approval of alcoholic beverage permit applications. Item 2A is a resolution granting an alcoholic beverage permit to Celebracion Hispana de Kenner on March 12, 2022, and March 13, 2022, at 3808 Loyola Drive, being property owned by the City of Kenner and Kenner, Louisiana. I have a motion by Councilmember Wilmot, seconded by Councilmember McKinney for the consent agenda. Council members, please vote. Councilman Hayes?
Yes.
Brannigan?
Yes.
Brennan?
Yes.
McKinney?
Yay.
Wilmot?
Yay.
Carroll?
Yay.
Segur?
Yay.
Motion passes 7-0. Under the public appearance agenda, I have item 8, public hearings for final passage. Item 8A is a public hearing regarding summary ordinance number 12,936, an ordinance amending Chapter 2 Administration to revise and restate Article 7 to the Kenner Code of Ordinances as per the ordinance contained herein. Mr. Chairman, I've received a request for an indefinite deferral of this item. A motion by Councilmember McKinney, seconded by Councilmember Wilmot on an indefinite deferral. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, please vote on indefinite deferral. Councilman Brannigan?
Yes.
Brennan?
No.
McKinney?
Yay.
Wilmot?
Yay.
Carroll?
Yay.
Segur?
Nay.
Hayes?
No.
Motion passes 4-3. Councilmembers Brennan, Segur, and Hayes are opposed. Item 9 is ordinances for the sale, purchase, transfer, lease, and/or alienation of a movable property. We have none. Item 10 is opening of bids. We have none. Item 11 is reclassification of zoning for final passage. We have none. Item 12 is other ordinances for final passage. Item 12A is summary ordinance number 12,935, an ordinance amending section 2-13 of the Kenner Code of Ordinances to mandate all public records requests be copied to the City Council within 5 days of receipt. I have a motion by Councilmember Brannigan, seconded by Councilmember McKinney. Any discussion? Councilman Brannigan?
Councilman Brannigan?
Yeah, I just want to open with, I put this legislation up because I think that the council needs to know how long it takes to have these public records requests fulfilled. And that's why I did it. I think that this is a transparent, good government piece of legislation, and it's a situation where it will make sure that these things, we know what the timelines are and when they're being answered.
Thank you. Councilman Segur?
Thank you, Council President. Yeah, I appreciate his concern, Councilman Brannigan, for the council knowing it, and I think we're already in a loop getting information. But the concern that I did have is, again, as I mentioned earlier, I spoke with the city attorney on the preparation of this legislation, and again, city attorney has no knowledge or was not involved in the preparation. So here we go, again, as I mentioned, we keep seeing these legislations come up that are not vetted by our city attorney's office. So I can only now point out that, council members, you are going to be in a position that you're not probably going to like to be in, because if you're in that loop and you want to question if it was not filed timely, you're liable to be questioned why you didn't take action to make sure it was filed timely. So you can be brought into some litigation if it's not. So this is a concern that, hey, if you got your votes, I'm going to not be here. I don't care, but that's what you need to be concerned with in the future. We are getting the notices already, why you need to have legislation to put it in place, especially if it's not vetted by the city attorney. Good luck. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Ms. Sala, do you see the agenda prior when it's released?
No, not prior to release.
I said prior. I retract that. Do you see the agenda?
I see the agenda when it's released.
And do you get to look at the backup support on the?
I see what everybody else in the public sees, yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right, thank you. Madam Clerk? Did you have a comment?
Has her hand up to speak?
I apologize. Thank
That's
you.
okay.
Yes. Thank you, Council Clerk and Council Chair. My only question, or the reason that I think that this is good legislation is because, first, we just discussed a case about public records request, and I think this is a way for us to be proactive so we don't get into any future litigation. I do understand Councilman Segur's concerns about putting us in the loop, but I also think it's important for us to know there have been instances of public records requests or other issues that have been requested, and we found out about it from the media. And I, as a council member of the city of Kenner, do not want to be in a position that I don't know what's going on. So this is gonna put us in the loop, and allow us to do our jobs better and have better oversight. So I think that this is good. Also, I will point out that we are already getting this information from the attorneys per my request. I requested it right after Christmas. I requested that we be sent to them. So this is not any different from what our procedure is in place now. So it's as long as it continues, it's not going to change. Nothing is going to change. We're just putting this in as an ordinance to show that, if the future changes, we want to continue to be in the loop. So I just think it's like good government legislation, making sure that we are aware of everything that's going on in the city. So, thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Carroll?
Thank you, Mr. President. I, too, agree with every councilman from Councilman Segura, McKinney, Brannigan from putting it up. I think it is good legislation for us to be aware of what's going on. If it means putting us in the loop or putting us in a position sometimes that will be challenging, I guess that's what's going to happen. But I still think it's good that we receive this information in the future, which will probably help, not be in a position that we don't know, for one, and we're able to address some things to expedite it in case for some reason something goes awry. So I appreciate this. Thank you, Councilman, and I will be supporting it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Wilmot?
Thank you, Mr. President. And I too agree with my colleagues. It gives additional information to the council, and we are doing this somewhat at the present, from what I understand, but this actually codifies it, so we will continue to get it, and it's also good government, so I will be supporting it as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Ms. Foshee?
I wanted to share with you two things. Well, at the parish, we had a publication, and we put it up, I want to say monthly, you could do it weekly, where the public records requests, the responses, and all of the time were listed so that everyone, not just the council, but everyone could see it. I also want to suggest that with authority, great authority, comes great responsibility. You have in front of you a public records request that was sent to the city January 17, 2022 from Jack Seawee. It was addressed to Ms. Sala. I'm not entirely sure who she gave it to. Maybe she gave it to all of you, but one of the people who received it gave it to at least one of the people that he was asking for records on. That person confronted Mr. Ziwi. So what you have here is someone who is lawfully seeking public records. The information comes to you, you give it to someone else, and that person confronts the person asking for it. People in the public have the right to request documents without being asked, why do you want this? Why didn't you call me? You could have come to me. That is highly inappropriate. So I am very much in favor of everyone knowing what's going on. I am not in favor of then treating this like some document that can be floated around, hey, look what happened, why don't you do something with this? So Mr. Ziwi has reached out and obtained counsel. He has informed us that he will consider suing the city and whatever council person or council persons who released it. So please, when you accept this responsibility to supervise what we're doing, would you also please accept the responsibility of being courteous and considerate to the public and the people who are seeking records? They have the right to request information. We do not have the right to challenge them for that.
Thank you, Ms. Foshee. Any other comments? Madam Clerk?
Just to close.
Councilman Brannigan?
Basically, this legislation, like I said before, is transparent and good government legislation. Yes, we are getting public records requests sent to us now, as Councilwoman McKinney asked for. The legislation was on for 2 weeks, and I received no phone calls from our attorney's office questioning anything in the legislation. So that's why I put it on. I think that we need to be aware of when these things come in and when they go out.
Thank you, Councilman. Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir. Council members, please vote. Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
McKinney?
Yay.
Wilmot?
Yay.
Carroll?
Yay.
Segura?
Yay.
Hayes?
Yay.
Brannigan?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 13 is resolutions and motions by council members. Item 13A is a resolution authorizing the publication of a notice of intention to levy a 2% sales and use tax and a 2% hotel occupancy tax in the North 1300 block of Veterans Boulevard Economic Development District, State of Louisiana, under the authority of LARS 33:9038.39 and providing for other matters in connection therewith. Have a motion by Councilmember Carroll, seconded by Councilmember Hayes. Any discussion?
I see none.
Council members, please vote.
Whose name is on this legislation?
Councilman Carroll, seconded by Councilman Hayes.
Okay. Yeah, and I'll yield my time to Councilman Carroll.
Councilman Carroll?
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to make it clear to the residents, to the public, that this is not a tax on any of the citizens in the city of Kenner. It will strictly be for the hotel establishment or establishments that will be related to this. So it will not be a tax on any person in the city of Kenner. So that is the biggest thing that I think people want to know. This is an opportunity for us to advance the corridor along Veterans, and I would ask for everyone's support on this with the understanding, again, for the sake of being redundant, that it will not be additional taxes on any citizens in the city of Kenner. Thank you, Mr. President.
And may I just clarify, Ms. Sala, it could be residents of the city of Kenner if they happen to stay at the hotel. It's an occupancy tax, but not necessarily, it's not a tax that's going to be put on every citizen in the city. It's again, an occupancy tax. Okay, thank you. Madam Clerk? Is it okay to recognize Mr. Brown?
President,
Mr. Brown?
just have a question, I guess, for Councilman Carroll. I'm just curious as to why this tax would just be on one hotel, or maybe more than one hotel, only in the 1300 block of Veterans Boulevard. I'm just curious as to why just that hotel or just that block.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. This is the hotel in question that we're in the process of in development, so it's for that. Could it expand? Then it could expand if further developments are built. But for right now, it is just this property.
It's new construction. It's a tax for that.
Okay.
It's
thank
creating, yeah, it's creating the tax incremental financing district for that area. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes, sir. Any other comments?
Can I clarify something? While I agree with you, if you're a Kenner, I just don't want anybody to leave this meeting thinking something different. If you're a Kenner resident and you spend a night in a hotel, you do pay the tax.
Thank you.
Okay,
Councilman-
I don't
Council-
want the public to think that you walk into a hotel and you're tax exempt if you're a Kenner. You show your driver's license, you get tax exempt, so you might want to,
Yeah, so
okay.
you should never assume anything, and I guess I did, Mayor.
I'm
Thank you.
not criticizing, I
Yeah,
don't want
get
the
you.
public to
Councilman
think.
Segura, way ahead of you.
Okay,
We
I
joked
heard
about
it.
it.
All right.
But no, if you stay in this hotel, you become part of that.
If you're a Kenner
establishment.
resident, you
Even
pay the
if you are a
tax like-
Kenner resident.
I think the safest thing to say is the majority of taxes will be paid to this project is from out-of-towners.
The majority will be.
Majority.
But if
Right.
there's a
But
case
if you
where.
stay there-
If you stay there as a Kenner resident.
Right, you have no air
yes,
conditioning that night, you might want to go stay in a
You
hotel,
might
you're
want to
paying
go
the
stay in a
tax.
hotel, for sure.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor.
Councilman Carroll was just making certain we were paying attention, so, anyone else? Madam Clerk?
Pam?
Let me think about this for a minute. All right, go ahead, please.
Mr. Brown, if I could clarify, this is not the creation of the tax increment financing district. That district was created years ago by a prior council. This is the second step in the process in levying the tax within the pre-existing district. So the district was already there.
Thank you, Ms. Foshee. Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir. Councilmembers, please vote. Councilmember McKinney?
Yay.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 14 is items removed from the consent agenda. We have none. Item 15 is acceptance of contracts and similar matters approved by the mayor. Item 15A is summary ordinance number 12,934. An ordinance authorizing the city of Kenner to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with the East Jefferson Levee District to utilize the East Jefferson Levee District's west return wall, splash pad, and all-weather access road on Lake Pontchartrain Hurricane Protection Levee in Kenner for recreational use. I have a motion by Councilmember Brennan, seconded by Councilmember McKinney. Any discussion?
I would just like to mention, and I've talked to some of my colleagues about this, Adam's been a great help with this, as well as Chad. These are going to be the access to the levee at West Esplanade and at Vintage. Instead of it being rough rocks, they're going to be improvements along the area. Tables are already in place. The lighting's going to be modified, and it'll give people bike access to the levees with hopefully future expansion of that to come. And there'll be some more releases about this as time goes on. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Council members, please vote. Councilman Wilmot?
Yay.
Carroll?
Yay.
Segur?
Yay.
Hayes?
Yes.
Brannigan?
Yes.
Brennan?
Yes.
McKinney?
Yay.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 15B is a resolution accepting the project as complete for the Sylvaner Lift Station Improvements Project by Gottfried Contracting LLC for the Department of Wastewater. I have a motion by Councilmember Brannigan, seconded by Councilmember Hayes. Any discussion? Seeing none, council members, please vote. Councilman Carroll?
Yay.
Segur?
Yay.
Hayes?
Yes.
Brannigan?
Yes.
Brennan?
Yes.
McKinney?
Yay.
Wilmot?
Yay.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 16 is ordinances and resolutions in summary for first reading. Item 16A is an ordinance approving a professional services agreement with MSMM Engineering LLC regarding Phase 2 Lincoln Manor subdivision drainage improvements, state facility planning and control, FP&C, project number 50-MF1-21-01, and the amount not to exceed $190,000 for the Department of Public Works. Item 16B is an ordinance approving a cooperative endeavor agreement for the Lincoln Manor Drainage Phase 2 with the State of Louisiana Facility Planning and Control, FP&C, project number 50-MF1-21-01, in the amount of $1,066,667 for the Department of Public Works. Item 16C is an ordinance ratifying an emergency purchase from Casco Industries Incorporated for the purchase of MSA products in the amount of $514,714 for the Kenner Fire Department. Item 16D is an ordinance authorizing the use of State of Louisiana contract number 4400021435 with Genuine Parts Company doing business as Napa Auto Parts for the purchase of automotive parts on an as-needed basis for the Department of Fleet Management. Item 16E is an ordinance adopting a sexual harassment policy for the City of Kenner's City Council. Please note that the council clerk has revised this caption to read the City of Kenner's City Council, and it will be advertised accordingly. Item 16F is an ordinance levying a sales tax of 2% in the North 1300 block of Veterans Boulevard Economic Development District, State of Louisiana, designating the full amount of sales tax as the increment from which local and state tax increments will be determined and used to finance economic development projects in accordance with and as authorized by Part 2, Chapter 27, Title 33 of the Louisiana Revised statutes of 1950 as amended, designating the initial annual baseline collection rate and establishing a monthly baseline collection rate for said tax, dedicating the tax increments to reimburse economic development costs and providing for other matters in connection therewith. Item 16G is an ordinance levying a hotel occupancy tax of 2% in the North 1300 block of Veterans Boulevard Economic Development District, State of Louisiana, designating the full amount of such hotel occupancy tax as the increment from which local and state tax increments will be determined and used to finance economic development projects in accordance with and as authorized by Part 2, Chapter 27, Title 33 of the Louisiana Revised Statutes of 1950, as amended, designating the initial annual baseline collection rate and establishing a monthly baseline collection rate for said tax, dedicating the tax increments to reimburse economic development costs and providing for other matters in connection therewith. Item 16H is an ordinance authorizing the execution of a cooperative endeavor agreement by and among the City of Kenner, State of Louisiana, North 1300 Block, Veterans Boulevard Economic Development District, State of Louisiana, and Airport Motel LLC relating to the collection, use, and expenditure of a 2% sales and use tax and a 2% hotel occupancy tax to be levied in said district and providing for other matters in connection therewith. Item 17 is reports from the council and our special committees.
Councilmember McKinney?
Thank you, Council President. Council Clerk, I'd like to, well, first I want to have a question actually for the administration. We were talking a little bit about the emergency pay, and my one question is the emergency pay still being, is it still being assessed? So are employees currently still receiving emergency pay?
In general, yes.
Yes? Okay.
You know, there are departments that are continuing to perform, response to IDA, so yes.
Okay. Okay, well, I know we're going to discuss this in more detail, but I would like a list of all employees who are getting assessed emergency pay.
Yes, we will provide to all of you a list of what everyone made during this whole time and who is continuing to.
Okay, and then could we also get that full policy that you guys are using to follow to determine the emergency pay? And then I'd like to request the motion or the creation of the committee for a committee of the council for the City Hall. I told you what the name of it was, and now I don't remember it. Let's see, where did I put it?
So you, just so I can understand, you would like to request the chairman to set up a committee for future development of the City Hall
Yes.
building?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, who would you like to appoint to serve on this committee?
Councilmember McKinney, please.
Any other members serving along with Councilman McKinney? Councilman Brannigan has his hand up, sir.
Madam Clerk, how many do we need? Is there a minimum, or do we?
We usually have about three members who serve on a special committee.
Councilman Segura?
Brannigan. Councilman Segura. Councilman McKinney would be the chairman, since she's
Chairperson.
requesting. Councilman McKinney, please know your secretary will be the secretary for the committee as well. Will be responsible for taking all minutes, posting the notices of your meetings, and any other business in accordance. I'll be glad to help her with that. Okay. Any other business?
Councilman Carroll?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd just like to the finance director to distinguish. So Councilwoman McKinney asked about people getting paid for emergency. So what is the difference between your regular work and it being an emergency? Because I don't know if there's an emergency to the point where people have to get additional pay. That's my concerns.
Okay, so basically the process is that the city budgets our regular hours, our regular salary.
when a disaster hits, obviously we will incur additional costs. People will have to be pulled from their normal duties to pick up debris, to, perform a various amount of duties that wouldn't be related to just their everyday work. So that time is what is billed to FEMA. What our exposure was due to the disaster. That's the only thing we're able to claim. But any work that's setting up a temporary facility, IT, anything that has to do with why are we here, why aren't we in City Hall, anything different, that's all billed to FEMA. This is a temporary facility that we will, request reimbursement for. So any of the costs associated with that would be sought from FEMA. So the field personnel that are continuing to pick up debris or getting calls, all that is billed back. Any of the lights that were damaged, any street lights, any of that, any repairs, all that is billed to FEMA. So this is going to continue to go on until everything is repaired.
Yeah, thank you very much, and thanks for that explanation. I totally understand that, but I would just like to add as a caveat for that, considering all what we're going through right now, that consideration be given to the number of hours individuals are working, just as good government.
No, I can agree with that, and I
Yeah.
think that FEMA in general will say the extent of the damage that a town had factors into what they do. I think that everything is very reasonable at this point. I understand that $86,000 seems outrageous, but considering what we would pay a contractor, it is not unreasonable.
I would disrespectfully disagree with you. I think
That's fine.
the point 86 is outrageous. The contractor, whatever that may have been or would be, obviously we have to look at that. But I'm just saying, I realize how we're going to calculate this, and I agree with that. But just as good government,
I can understand.
just to be mindful of that.
Yes,
Since
sir.
that's all I'm asking. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Mr. President.
So let me ask a question. We're going to go back and we're going to look at that. So I'm picking up from the council, you'd rather me contract out right now on various services to keep the cost down.
I never said
No.
that. I
No,
said,
I know it's not going to keep the cost down. I'm just saying, is that the intent of some council? I just want to make sure because, we're going to come back in 2 weeks and obviously there's going to be something on the agenda. I don't want to be attacked that we have spent money on civil servants, directors, whoever the list is, Liz will show me, and I should have gotten a contractor. So I guess I'm preempting the attack. Do we want to, are you asking me to look at contractors for things, or are we going to have peace at that council meeting? Why didn't I go get a contractor? It probably came out terrible, but so
yeah,
did
it came out a little skewed, but.
Well, so did
we're
the potential legislation. So.
Yeah.
That didn't get passed, that did not get accepted. So, what are you asking me to do? You're
So-
asking me to cut our employees back, or you're asking me to let our employees work for our citizens, or go get a contractor in place of those employees for the extra work?
Okay, are you?
Yeah, I mean, and
you
again,
finished?
it's,
I just want to answer your question.
No, go ahead,
I don't
and
want to
that's-
keep interrupting
no,
while you're
I
talking.
appreciate it, Greg.
So I appreciate your concern in asking the question, and just for clarity, I am not suggesting or saying that you have to use contractors. What I am saying is that based on all of the information that has taken place, based on the perception from the community, from our voters, from our taxpayers, that good, conscious government be in place even when we are doing the response. Because the emergency is kind of, is it an emergency because we have to get it done? Yes, but it is an emergency by definition of emergency. You know what I mean? If the place catch a fire, that's an emergency. If there's some debris out there that needs to be picked up, can it be picked up the next day under normal working hours? That would not be considered an emergency, in my opinion. We could wait until the next day to use
Right.
as opposed. So that's what I'm saying. So
I know, and that's fine.
yeah, I got you. And listen,
don't-
I don't want to sound like I'm attacked, nor will
No,
I when we get to that.
I didn't take it that, I just
Yeah.
I don't want to be attacked
Of course.
in 2 weeks. So I thought you wanted me to limit the hours of the employees so they don't go over that amount, which is absolutely impossible to get the work done with employees that we don't have also, a lack of employees. So it does go into overtime, or our constituents wait to the next day, or I go hire a contractor. So if I think we've reached an agreement.
I think we have.
Either get the work done or leave it alone to the next day.
I said the definition of an emergency, if it is if the place is on fire, and I'm using that as an
Right, it's
example.
FEMA's definition.
That's an emergency. If we're talking about debris on the street, that is not an emergency.
Okay.
Because we have to wait
All right.
now. I put my garbage out, collect it on Tuesday. I got to wait till Friday till they come back. I think most people will understand that in a
Okay.
timely manner. So just to distinguish between emergencies
I got you.
and spending additional monies, and to look at individuals who are working this
Right.
with a good sense of government.
So-
That's exactly what I'm
As-
saying.
I got you. So just for clarification with all 7 of you all, if there's extra garbage or extra debris on the street, I'm not getting 7 phone calls.
Not from me. You won't get one
Yeah,
phone call.
I got you, but I'm just making
Yeah.
sure everybody else is okay with that, because that's what one council person is asking me, and I'm fine with that, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna pass that on to the complaint that we get, because y'all must not gonna be calling me for those things that Greg and I are talking about. And look, Greg and I are talking about District 1, so you're good. I just make sure everybody else is good with that.
Well, I'm talking about District 1, but I'm talking about good government for the city. Good.
I got you,
That's,
but you don't
that would
run,
apply to all the districts.
right.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if your ask can apply to,
Well,
your
they
ask
may
is what I
totally
said.
different from
Your
what I'm
ask can
saying.
apply to them, you know.
Yeah, I'm asking for citizens that live in
I got
District
you.
1 that are no different
Well,
than 2,
well-
3, or 5, that we use good government
I got you.
practices
Since-
as it relates to compensation
Right.
being paid to people.
Since nobody else answered, I'll go with your request for the whole
Thank
city.
you. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. President.
Councilman Segura.
Thank you, Council President. Hold on, Mayor. I'm not agreeing.
That's what I was asking.
I have residents that do call me and question why debris is still out there and when's it going to get picked up. And I do have a problem saying it might have to wait for days because I don't have personnel or we don't have the means to do it. So I know we're kind of talking about the cow that got out the gate already. The hurricane, so many days after, is gone. But when those days were right after, yeah, we were beating the bushes to get stuff moved out the streets, get debris, and there was no concern, there was no interest in saying, let it wait to another day because it's not an emergency. I took it as an emergency and it needed to get out, and I still see debris on the streets that I still think as part of an emergency pickup needs to get picked up.
Right.
So I'm just going to still keep putting my request in to get this debris in my district picked up because I don't like seeing my district with these piles of debris that are still waiting to get picked up. I know our big debris contractor has gone, and that's a contract. Again, we get into that contract that was, and I know we'll get a report at some point on what they were paid to do, and we'll be astonished, I'm sure. So now that we're into the next phase of that, where we have a different means of getting it from the debris contractor and just the everyday normal garbage, trash that's out, we're still in between there, and we still got to get that picked up. So I'm going to still be calling, looking to get my trash
And
picked up.
and Councilman, I agree with you, and that's why I was asking everybody, because we were having a kind of a side discussion publicly. But I just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure that, look, the administration is here to service the constituents, work with every council member, but we're not here to be attacked. So in 2 weeks from now, I wanted to make sure that that wasn't, not saying you're going to do it, but I was make sure it was not going to come back from any other council person, that we are not doing what we're supposed to be doing because we don't want to pay people for their services, our employees, or we don't want to go get a contract. You and I've already settled that. So I got it, Councilman. I get it.
Yeah, I just want to make sure.
I get it. I'm
that
going to have
no
to have
one-
different situations with different council people.
Yeah,
Only 2 of you all have spoken out of 7.
Yeah, I mean, what I said, I don't want to be misconstrued as not to pick up the trash. I said.
No, I didn't take it that way.
Yeah, but I just want to make sure, Councilman Segura, I am no different than he wanting to pick up the trash in my district. But I do not agree we are under the hurricane emergency right now, and that even now, even when we were under emergency, Nothing happened immediately on this point in my area. It was always a delay some way or shape or form. I'm just saying to use good government common sense as it relates to the taxpayers' dollars to be able to monitor what is going on with the overtime, with the emergency overtime. That is what I am saying. Simple as that. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you,
I
Mr.
appreciate
President.
it. Thank you, Councilman. Councilmember McKinney.
Yes, thank you, Council President. And I guess my question is, and kind of a response is, so what's the difference between, like, how are we deciding that, okay, well, that's emergency debris pickup, but that's regular debris pickup? So, like, everybody, is our public works doing debris pickup still? I mean, and they're getting paid overtime for that? That's what, I guess I'm a little confused, because I thought that we were back on normal trash pickup, right?
Okay.
So.
So if I could just sort of circle back, I think I can answer your question, but let me start in the beginning. The emergency, it doesn't have to do with my definition or Councilman Carroll's definition or Lee Zerg's definition. It has to do with FEMA's definition. By FEMA's definition, we are in an emergency. FEMA will not pay our regular pay. So between 8:30 and 4:30, when the city's open, if you're going out and you're picking up trash, FEMA's not reimbursing us, and they shouldn't, because that's part of our budget. But if you have enough trash to pick up that you have to go out at 6 a.m. and you have to stay till 6 p.m., then FEMA will pick up the difference now that we're open between 6 a.m. and 8:30 and between 4:30 and 6 p.m. So at this point, the question is, do we want to pay contractors to pick it up, which FEMA will reimburse? Do we want to pay employees overage to pick it up, which FEMA will reimburse? Or do we want to let the garbage sit? I'm not in the position to make that decision, but when we have someone who will pay us or a contractor to go pick up the garbage, why would we not do that? So that's, I understand everything we're saying. I understand everybody has an argument on every side. I understand the numbers make a big difference, but FEMA doesn't reimburse us for our regular work. So if this hurricane emergency will not last forever. We're one of the few people who actually lost our city hall, so our emergency may, by the governor's declaration, last longer than most, but it's not going to last forever. During the period of time where the federal government is giving us some assistance to do the additional work, FEMA is paying for that. We can either take advantage of that and say, yes, FEMA, we will let our employees work before and after. Yes, FEMA, we will have contractors do this. Or we can say, no, we just want to wait. So that I think is what we're talking about. We're not talking about, excess or whatever. When you see the amount it would cost to have a contractor perform the services that all of your NIMS trained people are performing, it's going to knock your socks off. But you can do that. I mean, you really could. We could put out right now pre-placed contracts for every single city service that you need after an emergency. You could. And you could literally, after 5 days, you can call them all in. Every employee, when the city's closed, every employee is getting paid, whether they're sitting on the beach in Destin or they are here. That is why during that period of time, which for us lasted, a month? During that period of time, the employees who choose not to go sit on the beach in Destin but decide to come here and work get the extra money. Once we're open, FEMA is only going to pay for work before hours and work after hours. That is what Liz went last night to check and confirm based on the story we saw. We were like, oh my gosh, did we make a mistake? At midnight, she and I are going through the payroll records, and no, she did not. So I understand. If the wisdom is we don't want to do the work, even though it's going to be paid for by FEMA, I get it. But please don't think that all this is us pushing our employees to get extra money. It is not. These people slept on the floor. These people did not see their families for weeks. So at some point, we need to at least respect the employees who went through this. Even if we don't like the fact that we had to pay them that much, show some respect for these guys who worked literally around the clock. If you don't want to pick up the trash, again, that's the mayor's call. If we decide to wait till tomorrow, even though we could get paid to pick it up today, if we want to wait it till tomorrow, then we can do that. But I'm trying to explain why we would pay. That's it. I'm not getting into the amount. I understand the amount is the issue, not whether we would pay. I don't believe Councilman Carroll will say we should not pay our employees. Because every single employee, every single city employee got paid extra who worked. Everyone. Fire, police, civil service, not civil service. Every single employee who worked. So, and we're going to share all of that with you. So, okay.
Can I just say before you finish, if you yield?
Yeah,
Councilman Carroll.
Thank you.
Councilman Carroll?
Yes. Thank you for yielding for 1 minute, and thank you for that explanation, Ms. Foshee. I totally agree. So let me point the elephant out in the room and say exactly what's on my mind. What I am saying is, no individual who is a director and above should be able to work the excessive hours and get pay that they got based on what we seem to believe right now. That is what I'm asking not to happen. Simple as that. Not the hourly individuals, directors and above.
Right, so those are the ones I'm talking about. If you put out a pre-placed contract for IT, Mike Claus can go sit on the beach in Destin and get paid his regular pay. Or we can use him because he's NIMS trained to do the NIMS functions, the ICS functions that FEMA requires. So either we can do it and get paid for it by FEMA, or we can hire a contractor. But what we should not do is say, FEMA will pay for this, but we're not going to let you get paid. Okay, Mike, go to Destin. I mean, I don't think you're going to have mass exodus, right? We're not going to go tell all the employees, you're only going to get paid for 5 days so everybody evacuate. That's not going to happen because these people are dedicated. But it is super unfair to tell these guys, you got to work around the clock and FEMA will pay you for that, but we're just not going to do it because it looks bad. That's wrong. If we have failed in our ability to explain this property, I will accept that. I will say I apologize for not having explained it better. I will apologize that we didn't have the conversation before it hit the news. But what I can't say, it's inappropriate for them to make the amount of money they made if they did the work for the money. FEMA says that's the way to pay them. If we put a cap on it, we might as well have a contractor do it. FEMA likes us to do it because we know it. There's no ramp-up time. Well, yeah, we're cheaper, obviously, but also, like, we don't have to bring in contractors and train them, but there are people out there who do that. There are small enough places who can't run their own emergencies, and they'll contract out everything. We contracted out some things. I'm sorry that Chad is not here. You know, his mother is not well, but during Zeta, we said, hey, we can do our own debris pickup, and we literally did, and it, as you probably recall, it took forever. So during Ida, we said, oh, no, let's use a pre-placed contractor. So we do use our own people, and we do use pre-placed contractors. If it is the wisdom of the council that we seriously, because of appearances, do not want to pay these people this much, then let us know. We can honestly put out more pre-placed contracts. There's a couple of more areas where we could do that. It's more expensive, but it would prevent this appearance that somebody in the city is making more money than they should.
Again, and this is the last thing I'm going to say. I made my comment. I think everyone in this room understands exactly what I'm saying. I am saying the city needs to be cleaned up. I am asking no director and above are paid excessive amounts like were identified since over the past couple of weeks. That is what I'm saying, and we can go back and forth on it, but I think everybody knows exactly what I'm saying. I think everybody understands what I'm saying, and not to just keep talking. That is what I would like the administration to hold everyone accountable to that. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilmember McKinney?
Yes, thank you. Okay, so I feel like there's a little disconnect there, so, because I don't expect that the directors are picking up trash, first of all. So,
Every single one of us who drives a city vehicle, whether it's full-time or part-time, we're all trash men. Yes, we are. Right. Yeah. But I think that's probably not the right example.
okay,
I understand what you're saying.
so Ivy Waste isn't picking up the debris anymore?
Ivy Waste is also picking up debris.
Okay, well,
But I
I
don't
mean,
think
to
we
me,
should
I
be-
think it's inappropriate for a director to pick up trash. That's my opinion.
We're
so.
not going to, someone is dropping full bags of trash around the city in strategic locations, which are then being run over. Whoever sees it first gets out and does their best to pick it up, whether that's me or IT director or Adam, it doesn't matter who it is.
It's what
Okay, well, call me and I will pick up the trash.
would love
so
that.
I don't get it charged, so it doesn't get charged.
Well, we're
to the
not
city.
charging either, that's the point. I don't
But
think
you're
that's
saying
the
that
point.
but you're saying that if the directors are doing jobs that are outside of there and it's chargeable to FEMA, then you're putting those hours towards FEMA.
We're not. We're
Yeah,
not.
I didn't say every employee
No.
is. I just said that there are employees that are doing additional
How many
duties
how many is that,
outside of their
5?
normal. There's about 5
We have
people.
about five
Directors.
director, assistant director, and above since the city reopened that are still doing FEMA
Hold on.
reimbursed emergency work. The rest of
Let
them
me,
are not.
let me give an example right here that y'all can witness if you look to your right. A director is running a camera. Come sit in this seat and try to fill the positions that we can't get filled or we don't have people looking at. No, please look. There's a director running a camera. So if you think directors aren't doing other work and DCAOs aren't doing extra work, I'd like the camera to turn on that director and show that director right now doing extra work at a council meeting. So this, well, they get my point. So it is happening. It is happening, and everybody needs to see that.
Well, and I would say that Charles Lane, who was the director before, also did it, and that was outside of her disaster, so but I guess my point is that you know, I feel very passionately about this issue. I'm not trying to say anything negatively about this, but if, as an average citizen, the average median income in Kenner is $54,000. That's for an entire year. So if I'm sitting at home hearing someone made $86,000 in 4 months, you know, I'm like, well, I want to work for the city. I can work for 4 months and do that.
Well, the city's hiring.
Work for a contractor who gets $500,000 to do the same. I'd probably do a contractor because you're going to get paid a lot more.
Well, I mean, I'm just, you know, I think visually, it just needs to, it doesn't look good, and, you know, from our perspective, and as someone who oversees, you know, we're legislators, and we all oversee this, it doesn't look good to the average person that this is happening, and we need to have better communication. We need to understand what the directors are doing. If it's still continuing, you know, emergency, I need to understand, you know, I think you made a comment about Mike Claus. You don't want him to go through an emergency to Destin. Well, if he's still getting emergency pay now, he probably might move to Destin. Maybe he needs to find a house in
Wow.
Destin. So, you know, like, I mean, I don't think the emergency is a finite time, right? It's not like he's, you know, so I just need to understand, you know, you're saying that it's during the emergency pay, you get regular pay, right? So he's getting
FEMA
7 hours.
tells us.
Yes.
FEMA is the one who audits this, not you, not us, FEMA. If FEMA says it's reimbursable, it's reimbursed. If what you're saying is you don't want us to get reimbursed by FEMA, we can stop. But right now, FEMA makes that decision, not us. We have, and I said it earlier when we were talking about something else, we have FEMA, we have GOSEP, we have Deloitte, and we have our own departments, and we're auditing every single transaction, every single timesheet, every single request for reimbursement. It's not just random. It didn't just happen. So I understand the numbers seem extreme. They're working a long, long number of hours. So this is not we didn't make up this rule. This is FEMA. What? Okay. I'm sorry.
I'd like to ask a question.
Yes, sir.
And I'm not picking on Mike Claus by any means, just because his name has been brought up. If Mike would have evacuated to Destin,
Yes,
and Mike wouldn't have done anything
correct,
other than sit on the beach.
correct.
And at the end of the day, he goes to sleep.
Yep.
He doesn't do one thing, whether it's in his realm of responsibility or not.
Right.
He would not have gotten he would not have gotten overtime.
That's correct.
Or emergency pay.
He would simply have received his salary,
salary.
but those services still had to be performed, so we would have to pay somebody.
The money he would have been paid was what the city would have paid him because the city was closed. He would have gotten his regular salary.
There's-
I'm not
there's-
talking about any overtime.
There's two periods that we're talking about. One, yeah, I mean, he's right. There's the month that we're closed, which is one type of pay, and then after we're
If
open.
he gets paid 8 hours a day and he goes wherever
Yeah,
and he doesn't do anything.
yeah, he gets 8 hours.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
The pay comes in, the emergency pay, the FEMA reimbursement comes in as a result of any employee or that person doing any work other than their normal day of work.
Correct. Any work when the city's closed,
And-
because you're getting 8 hours to sit on the beach, or if
And
you come to
whether a
work.
supervisor is a supervisor or the person that runs a camera
Correct.
starts going out and is able to do another part, whether it's picking up debris, whether it's repairing streetlights, they're gonna get that emergency pay. And they should be paid some compensation for that.
When the city is closed, that is correct.
Okay.
Once the city opens, it's really just a select few. I think we have 5 of our exact.
And I understand I think the discussions need to continue so everyone has an understanding.
Yes, sir.
But I think the point of, okay, do we send it out to a contractor? Would that $85,000 have cost the city $320,000 or $89,000?
Right.
And I'm not saying, I agree, I understand the person that acts going, geesh, but there are some explanations
Yes,
for it,
sir.
I think, that we need to, as a city, and I'm not putting blame on anyone.
Yes, sir.
Is to explain it
Better.
more thoroughly
Yes, sir.
and better,
Yes, sir.
so that everybody says, okay, this
Get it.
isn't just
Right.
somebody taking a cut out of the pie.
Right.
Because there's an opportunity.
Absolutely. And one of the things I think really would be good, even if we don't use them, is to put out the pre-placed contracts. That will do 2 things. One, that will give us the backup in case an employee says, I'm not coming. But the other is, it'll tell us what the alternative would be. During Zeta, when we knew what it was going to cost through the outside contractor, and we said, we think we can do it cheaper. And so we attempted it, and it cost about the same, and it beat up our employees. So if what we do is go ahead and put out pre-placed contracts for all these services, and then we can come back to you and say, okay, we can pay Chad Pitfield $86,000, or we can pay Southern Cat $450,000, what you guys want to do. At least the public will
other thing
hear.
is, though, what if our employees are not able to do it?
Correct.
What if it would have been even a worse situation to where we wouldn't have had
Exactly.
the vehicles or the equipment
Exactly.
or anything else? Yes, just off the cuff from what you're saying, I think we should have
I
those
agree.
in
Yes, sir.
place.
I think we'll
Because
do-
we may need, we should have a plan B.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. I agree with that.
I'm sorry.
We'll take
I
care of that.
Jumped in on, are you finished?
Finish.
Councilman Wilmot.
Thank you, Mr. President. There's a few things I wanted to address, and first off, Ms. Herring, I know Councilwoman McKinney had made a request dealing with the additional pay, as well as I did previously. I just don't want you to have to double the efforts, and I think we're on the same page. I don't know how you understand that.
I think everyone's asking for the same information, so I'll distribute it to all of you.
Okay, that's what I wanted to address with that. Now, as far as Councilman Carroll, what he reflected earlier and stated, and I agree with that, and that's a lot of what we need to discuss. And as far as the legislation that we referred to earlier, that is simply to have it come before the council so we can look at it after a period of time to make sure that it's transparent, the public sees it, it can be explained as to who and why they're getting the pay that they're getting. I think it's very important to let the public know. And when we have it at the meetings, I think this is the time and place to do that. And that's what the legislation does. It's so very important to be able to verbalize just what Ms. Foshi's saying. And if these employees are earning it, it's one thing, but let's let the public know and why and what's going as it goes through the process. And I haven't heard anything yet about the pay that these employees get and if it goes to their retirement. I presume it does.
It does not.
It does not?
No, sir.
Okay. Well, that's reassuring and helpful.
And I understand you're going back and it's going to be resubmitted, but I would encourage you to reflect on where we were 5 days into this storm. Right? We had no electricity, we had no internet, we had no access, computers we couldn't do anything with them. We're not sure we're going to be able to make payroll, and we're meeting up at the levee. So 5 days in, if we have this conversation and the council says, we're not going to pay it, what do we do then?
And I'm not taking anything away from the staff and supervisors and directors. Man, let me tell you, I was there. I saw what was going on. I know people work very, very hard and long hours. No question about it. That isn't the issue, though. The issue at hand is the additional pay, and it looks exorbitant, and it may be. And we need to be a part of that process. That's what I'm saying. And we weren't a part of that process. This was all done unilaterally by the administration. The council itself did not have anything or did not have any input into that process, and we need to be. That's what I'm saying.
Finished, Council?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Councilman Brannigan?
I just, the last update that we got on IDA expenses was December 17th. I don't know if y'all, have you done
I
another
can give you
one?
another one.
Okay.
I'll email it to all of you.
Perfect.
Madam Clerk?
Are we still in the council discussion committee?
17, yes.
If you don't mind, I have one other thing to say, Mr. President.
Councilman?
Yes. Thank you, sir. As everyone knows, that on January 17th, the city of Kenner celebrated the 40th anniversary of Dr. Martin Luther King holiday, the 40th time that the city of Kenner has celebrated it, and that is an accomplishment that not many cities can say that they have been there for all 40 years for it. You know, as I said at the at the ceremonies, that Dr. King would have been 93 years old, individual that not only helped individuals from a civil standpoint, from families, children, women, rights, military, all of that. That is something to be proud of, and that all Americans should be proud of to celebrate. I think it was a great celebration. Obviously, for the past 2 years, we've been somewhat limited to not doing it, to doing it on Zoom. But it is always better, in my opinion, to be able to come out to the community, to have a parade, to have a community, to fellowship with one another, to celebrate just like we do on the 4th of July, just like we do on other holidays. So it is something about people getting out together and supporting. Obviously, we always put safety first, and we will always adhere to that. But I'm just glad that the weather cooperated, and we were able to not have to deal with harsh weather like it is today. The sun was out, and it was beautiful. And I'd just like to, thank some of the people who participated in the event to make it what it was on that date. Chief Glazer, Councilman Wilmot, Councilwoman McKinney, Councilman Brannigan, Councilman Segur, Mayor Zahn, Councilman Lee from the parish, Chief Morris, Mike Quigley of Councilman Impostato's office, Keep Council, former council member, former Jefferson Parish, State Representative Joe Stagney, Judge and former council member Mark Johnson, Judge Roscoe Lewis, Constable Jason Ural, all participated. And it is good to be able for the people in the city of Kenner to see our elected officials as much as possible in certain events, not just for MLK, but for everything. And it is good when your schedule permits you to do that, for people to see you and just to know that you are aware of what's going on throughout our city. And I'd like to give special thanks to Pastor Mark Mitchell, who gave a fantastic message on the day as it relates to King, as it relates to our current situation and everything else. I'd like to thank the committee, Attorney Shaw, my assistant Kelly Harper, Ms. Pamela Roach. I'd like to thank Pastor Mitchell Stevens, who gave the opening prayer and the closing prayer and helped coordinate it as well. And also the City of Kenner General Services that always perform, always supports, always are open to supporting to ensure everything leading up to it, the Kenner Police Department, the Fire Department, and everything that comes up sometimes during the event. So it goes without saying that I appreciate everyone from the City of Kenner that participated in that. With that being said, I've gotten a number of calls from people. The only thing that came across in a negative sense to me personally was that there are a number of people, obviously because of the pandemic, because they are sick, because they are physically challenged, they are not able to walk. They definitely were a little tentative about coming out because of the pandemic. But normally KTV comes recorded, but KTV was not there that day. So, you know, that is a big faux pas. That should never happen. We should always have the KTV there to record it, to play it back like it always has been on Channel 76. And if I just may ask, you know, what was it this particular MLK that the KTV was not there to record it for us?
Again, we have been shorthanded with different things. We did make sure that Bob Ross was there to take the pictures, but we have been short, as I referred to.
Robin was positive with COVID.
Right, and I wasn't gonna.
Civil service, and Bob
I
Ross
did-
was our only option.
Well, I obviously.
I didn't, if the director wants to share that, that's fine. I didn't want to, I
Yeah,
wasn't going to go
and
that
I
much
can-
detail, but.
I can understand that, and I would never want anyone that would be sick. But I think another option could have been, like we've done in the past, had it been communicated to me that we could have hired a photographer to come out like we've done in the past.
Right, a contractor.
A contractor,
Right.
because we have done that in the past. Because this is important to us, Ms. Fauché, don't.
Yes, sir, it is important,
Don't-
but we
don't-
didn't know they were
please don't-
sick till that morning. And I
Right.
apologize, but the day of the event is when we learned that they were positive. 2 employees positive, 1 civil servant. So I apologize. I would have come out with my own iPhone if I had realized that I needed to be able to do that. But we are so short-staffed right now in all departments. There was no disrespect intended, none whatsoever, but we had no capacity to film that event that day. That's why Bob Ross was there doing stills.
That is, and I appreciate Mr. Ross as he comes out all the time. But if a call would have been made to me, say, listen, everybody's sick, you know, we won't be able to do it. Okay, now I know. Now because I will not forget that. I will suggest, well, okay, let's get a contractor like we have in the past to video it. It won't get past me that for something like that to be able to support, and with the understanding that people are ill. And in the future, if we can get that kind of, you know, reciprocity, I will appreciate that.
Of course.
Yeah, so everything else was great. I had to say that for the people who have contacted me and wanted to know. They wanted to know because they like to see the K-76, which is a great organization. So it is important for us to put this out there, why, so everybody can hear why it wasn't. So in the future, that is what I would be able to support. Anyone that would follow after me, I'm sure, for any councilman would understand that as it relates to anything that relates to an event for the city of Kenner, particularly one that is recognized on a national basis. That is important to us, simple as that. So thanks again for everyone's support, for coming out, and hopefully we can keep year 41 going next year as well, and we are in a better position from this pandemic so more people can participate. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman. Anyone else? Madam Clerk?
Item 18 is new business. Item 18A and 18B were taken at an earlier juncture in the meeting. Item 19 is unfinished business and motions to reconsider or remove from a tabled position. We have none. Item 20 is persons wishing to address the council on special subject matters.
Mr. Richard Brown, please state your name and address for the record. You'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. President. Richard Brown, Sessions Lane, Kenner.
Your address, please, the number 824, correct?
I don't mind giving it. It's 824, but Mr. President, a lot of people do have a problem with publicly giving an address at council meetings. A lot of governmental entities have done away with it. I personally don't mind, but.
Understood. We could take that under
So-
advisement.
If that's usual with other agencies, we can stop it, but we'll check into it.
So, but I don't mind. I think everybody knows where I live.
It's that
Well,
other
if you can-
guy. What's his name? Yeah,
No,
okay.
Yeah, there we go.
Go ahead, please.
Okay, if you can start the clock now, though.
Yes, sir.
I'll try just very briefly to touch on that emergency pay plan. I'm glad Mr. Wilmot proposed his ordinance. I did not know about it. And by the way, for the sake of, I guess, Mr. Segur, I frequently come up here to ask why something is being added to the agenda, and then whether I object depends on that answer to why. Why wasn't it put on the agenda previously? I didn't have to ask that question because Mr. Wilmot explained what his ordinance was and why it was here, that it was based on facts that developed last night. So that satisfied the why, and it also satisfied me that it was of sufficient urgency that I was not going to object. And regarding the still paying people for doing extra work, you know, I don't have a problem with the salaried employees getting extra pay, overtime pay. I do have a problem with directors getting what I look at as exorbitant amounts of money, getting paid for working 25 or more hours in a day, getting 2.5 times their regular pay, getting 8 hours regular pay, and then time and a half after that. I really have a problem with that, and I think the citizens of the city of Kenner have a problem with that. But the main thing I wanted to speak on was about the council agendas. And is Mr. Claus here, the IT director? Maybe he can answer some of these questions. Can we pause just a minute, Mr. President, while he comes out?
Yes. Why don't you pose your questions, Mr.
And
Brown?
I'll address my concerns or the questions that Mr. Claus, maybe you can address them. But first off, it's very difficult to view the agendas now. In fact, the one that was on Facebook, my cell phone never would answer to that. Using this new procedure the city has, using this outfit called Transfer Now, whatever that is, I think it's Transfer Now, I have problems with that. And it only stays open for a week. After a week, everything disappears. You cannot see the attachments to the agenda anymore. You cannot see the ordinances. I wonder why we can't go back to doing it the way we always have. I get the agendas by email. I can go back a year and look at the agenda for a certain meeting and see the attachments, see the ordinances. We can no longer do that with this Transfer Now business. If you go to the City of Kenner's website from a cell phone, or at least from an iPhone, I cannot even access the agendas at all. I can from my laptop at home, but from my iPhone, there is no option to see the council agendas. By the way, there are no more hot links. We used to be able to click on the ordinance number and see the actual ordinance. We cannot do that anymore.
Mr. Brown, maybe you could speak with Mr. Claus about some other recommendations.
I'll do that. And actually, I think that summed it up. You know,
All right, sir.
again, it all just disappears after 7 days.
Thank you very much.
Can I speak?
Yes.
Okay, so just for clarity, directors never get time and a half pay. What we do is we get our 7 salaried hours, and anything excess that we work, or if the city's closed and we come in, we get our straight pay rate. We never get time and a half.
Well, that's what this emergency pay plan called for.
And it said at our regular rate, it didn't say time and a half.
Thank you, Ms. Herring. Mr. Teft?
Council President?
Oh, I'm sorry, pardon me. Mike, did you want to respond at all?
I'll address it.
Thank you. Councilman Segura?
Oh, thank you, Councilman. Mr. Brown? Mr. Brown?
Mr. Brown?
Mr. Brown, just a little comment. I use and my son's going to be mad at me, I use an Android. I didn't have those kind of problems. He wants me to switch to an iPhone, and maybe that's why I don't need to.
Maybe, I used to use an Android too, and I've got mixed emotions about this iPhone. But
There you go.
For some reason, it won't access the agendas.
Thank you. But I do recognize your problem, because on some cases, I have trouble in that download, getting to see it, and then I'm not sure about if I waited a week and tried to see it that I didn't see it. So I guess the answer is when I download it, you should save it maybe, that file, so then you would. But anyway, you're right, Android versus iPhone, maybe a problem.
Thank you.
Mr. Teft? Name and street for the record. How's that?
Greg Taft, I'll say it, 3720 West Loyola Drive in Kenner. And also Council President, his name is Al Morella.
That's right. That's right.
I just have a couple things, and actually, Richard hit on a couple of them. But the other thing I wanted to hit on was, when will the website, do we know when the website's going to be fully functional to be able to access contracts, to be able to look at various things like we used to be able to go in and look at? Because right now, it's hard to get to, if you can get to it at all.
Mr. Taft, do you have any other questions, please? If you don't mind, we'll answer those at the,
Well, and the only thing I want to say is that y'all had deferred indefinitely 8A, and I want y'all to know I am disappointed that that happened. I thought maybe y'all was willing to compromise, but it's obvious that you weren't, and because I thought it was a good compromise. My only problem was with what y'all had voted on is that when you really look at the charter, you robbed the citizens of being able to attend the budget hearing when y'all make the change on the night of the vote, because they're not here because they don't know that you're having a budget hearing. They know you're voting on the budget, but when y'all change the budget on the night that you're voting, there is no public hearing, so you just robbed the citizens of Kenner the ability to be able to question and to be able to see what those changes would do, and the layover period that I thought would have been required because of the change. And that's all I have. Thank you.
thank you, Mr. Taft. Adam, do you have a comment on what Mr. Taft had mentioned?
So part of the reason that the site was taken down was due to the cyber attack for the functions that Mr. Taft is discussing. We are still actively working with outside agencies to get those things taken care of, and we're trying to get it back up as quick as possible. We got interrupted by a small hurricane, but we will be getting back to it as soon as we can. I'm thinking Mike can come out and address the time frame probably better than I can. He's waving at me from the booth.
Thank you. Councilman Segura?
Thank you, Council President. Just a quick comment on Mr. Teff's comment about 8A. I want to thank Councilman Brennan. Him and I spent a lot of time with our city attorney in the usual process of preparing legislation to prepare legislation that would, we had hoped, solve some of these defects in what you're referring to, but I guess now we'll have to wait for presumably maybe somebody will file court action if it's violated that we'll have to defend. But the compromise that you referred to, Councilman Brennan and I and the city attorney, like I said, we tried to mediate both positions, put things in there that were in that original legislation that did have merit with the putting it out on public social medias and websites and the time limits. But yeah, that's a big defect when you allow to be able to vote and amend a budget in that same night where the public did not have the opportunity to know you were going to amend it and then vote on it. I agree that that does rob the public of that privilege and need to see that. And obviously you can tell by the vote who doesn't not necessarily agree with that and thinks that it is okay for the public to be left out, as we witnessed last budget special meeting when the budget was amended from the floor and y'all had not seen, neither did some of the council members see what the amendments were coming up and then were put through. So yeah, I got you. We'll just have to let it play out now and see where it goes. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councilman Wilmot?
Thank you, Councilman Brennan, Mr. President. Yeah, as far as this legislation, it's passed. The amendments on it, yeah, you put them forward, and what it does is it actually takes away and guts the council's authority in the budget. That's what it does. It's not a good amendment. I differ with those who voted to support that amendment, but then again, that's their right and prerogative to do so. The council needs to have its authority, and I believe that the legislation that we have is good legislation, and it stands on its own. We need to have our own authority, and for a council person to vote against the authority of the council, I question that, but that's not up to me. That's up to those good folks who voted that way. So, again, we need to have a voice in the budget, and that's what that does. It sets up a process that allows the council to do its job. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other comments, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion. So moved.